To one and all, for posterity, this is a shower bedhead, I promise. I am clean, even though I look like a homeless man and I need to go ahead and get a haircut and a beard shave. I promise you that we are doing just fine. I hope you are doing well in the future or the past or the present, wherever this video finds you. And what we're going to be doing today is actually going to be our weekly show going forward on the main Counterpoints 40K channel. We are going to be breaking down any Warhammer related news. We're going to be checking out the This Week in Warhammer. We're going to check out any news stories from the past week. We're going to do brief overviews of them. If there's anything like the Skulls event, which is the video game like Omni series of stuff that's coming through, we're going to do that. And then also if there's like new cinematics, fan animations, breakdowns, new third-party models, etc., then we're going to check that out as well. So I'm actually pretty excited to get started. I know that this is going to be like new because most people who are here for streaming, generally speaking, they've been here for politics. So now I know that like our streaming numbers for politics weren't huge, but you know, I have interests. I have multiple interests. I have the Warhammer interest, I have the science fiction interest, and I have the political interest. So, yeah. So if you're more of the Warhammer gamer bro, you're not into the politics stuff, then this stream will be for you. You have been an underserved part of my community from a live event perspective, and now I am going to be servicing you. Ghosty, good evening. Thanks for saying hello. I appreciate you letting me know that you are alive. But without much further ado, because I don't want to cuck the content, let's go ahead and get into our scenes. Let's go ahead and check it out. Let's see what's going on in This Week in Warhammer. If I find something interesting, then I'll go ahead and be pausing and breaking it down. You know, unfortunately, I've already watched it. Hello, Kino de Guaz. Good evening. I hope you're doing well. But we're just going to check out what's going on. We're going to move through the Warhammer community articles, and then we'll check out some of the cinematics and other things that have come out recently that I feel like talking about. We, of course, will be talking about Space Marine 2, and we'll probably be ending the stream, I want to say, with the Skulls event, where we'll watch the Skulls event from a month ago, which is all the video game breakdowns, and then we'll just pause intermittently in order to commentate. Without further ado, let's check out what's in This Week in Warhammer.
Welcome to This Week in Warhammer. My name's Lewis, and it's time to take a look at what's happening in your favourite hobby over the next 7 days. We're travelling to the Mortal Realms this week with some fantastic pre-order releases for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. The Warhammer Age of Sigmar core book lands for pre-order this week, containing everything you need to get started with the newest edition, and is also available in a stunning limited edition. There's also the new General's Handbook, Fire and Jade Gaming Pack for games of Spearhead, and faction packs for every single army in the Mortal Realms.
Now, I'm just going to speak for me, but I kind of want to ask the chat a little bit. There's about 30 of you already, which points to me that I should probably be talking about Warhammer since we're only a couple of minutes in, and we already have that many people hanging out with us. Do any of y'all play Age of Sigmar? My perspective, generally speaking, is that Age of Sigmar is like the red-headed bastard child of fantasy wargaming, where a lot of people liked Warhammer Fantasy, the old world, but they've kind of like aged out of the hobby a little bit. And then Warhammer 40,000 obviously has like a really passionate fan base, but that fan base, at least on Twitter anyways, has gotten really pissy at Games Workshop being douchebags about their IP, and also about 10th edition not being as good as 8th edition, and there seems to be a loss of momentum from that perspective. So I'm kind of wondering about that. And then Zeno de Gua says, keep up with the lore and breakdown vids. I will. So I'm actually at an impasse. Maybe you could comment on what you think is worth it. So the Interrogator series didn't really do that well algorithmically, but that was the exact time that I was trying to figure out the breakdown formula of cutting out, you know, 20 or 30% of the video, realistically 30 to 40%, and then filling the gaps with lore. That's when I was figuring out that formula. So it could partially be Interrogator wasn't as popular of an IP, but it also could be that I was figuring out the formula that we now kind of all know and love. Now, for the next like 4 episodes of Hammer and Bolter that are left, the truth is I love my older episodes. It's kind of like I had figured out the formula. I was still speaking a little bit extemporaneously, so there's a little bit of ums and ahs and pauses and weird tangents and all that kind of stuff. But all of the information is good and well researched, and also I really love my tangents because, so for instance, with the vampire episode, I talked about being a cop. With the I'm trying to think of the other one, but with the come on, I'm drawing a blank. The Monsters episode, I was talking about how I like the psychology of the Dark Oath Marauders because they were on one hand pledged to chaos, but on the other hand, they viewed themselves as like independent creatures of the realms. So for me, I kind of like those extemporaneous rants. I don't know how you guys felt. So the question is like, do I redo the Hammer and Bolters even though I love my old ones? I don't know. And then do I redo Interrogator because it was newer to the formula? And I don't know. And then after that, it's kind of a question of like, do we start doing lore shit? Because honestly, like we're kind of tapped out on cinematics. Anyways, let's check out what everybody is saying. Ghosty says, even though it's the oldest child, I still love 40K more. Me too. How do you guys feel about female custodians? Because I'm kind of like on it, but I'm also like, it's kind of like a bad sign to me. It's like a bad omen. Bud123, I know nothing about Warhammers. Well, welcome aboard. Bud123, I know that I've obviously seen you in chat a whole bunch of times. As a matter of fact, I think I've seen you over on Counterfire. This goes out to all the political people. If you want Warhammer stuff, stay here. If you want political stuff, go to Counterfire, which is linked down in the description. That's where we'll be doing debate content. And then like video essays I'll be doing in Counterpoints. I promise we'll get back into the content in a second. I just want to talk to chat because I haven't really gone live in this channel in a while. Entertainment says, veteran, army, and law enforcement as well. Love your content. Thank you, Entertainment. 07, salute in the comments. Spanky Ham, I hope they let you use Titus's helmet during combat. That was the only thing I didn't like in Space Marine 1. I think you will be able to. At least from what I saw with the cooperative gameplay, it looks like you are able to customize within the Ultramarine armor set for the campaign. And then it looks like there's a cooperative mode where you can really do whatever you want. So we'll actually review some of that content later tonight. RC says, hello, how are we doing today? We're doing great. It's great. It's okay if it doesn't get pretentious. I agree with you, Ghosty. Mike Monk says, female custodians is a huge bad sign. So I'm not trying to overread it, but it does feel a little rough. I'm not going to lie. Like, it feels like bad shit starting to creep in. And by bad shit, like, I don't mean anything too crazy. I just mean, like, I do not want Misters of Battle or female Space Marines. I'm very anxious about that. I don't want them to rob the lore and DEI it, basically. I'm not like a huge culture warrior, but I am a little bit. Okay, cool. All right, let's continue with the content.
But that's not all. You can also show your loyalty to your favorite Grand Alliance by picking up a set of Order, Chaos, Death, or Destruction dice, which are on pre-order this week too. Immerse yourself in the worlds of Warhammer with these Black Library pre-order releases. Morven Val's Spear of Faith by Jude Reed arrives in a stunning mega limited edition, packed with a plethora of extras for the most pious Sisters of Battle fans. On Warhammer Plus this week, Ed explores 2 different kinds of weathered materials that the Verminous Skaven build their war machines and weapons from over on Citadel Colour Masterclass, showcasing both mossy, rotting wood as well as oxidized, filthy metals that will help bring your Skaven miniatures to life. And on Lore Masters, Alex delves into Shaman, the mercurial realm of metal, and Shaiish, the realm of death. Alex discusses who rules over these realms and how they have shaped their cosmic domains.
Okay, so this is something that I'm going to share frustration with. I'm hoping that I will find some fellow travelers here with my frustrations. So Warhammer TV for the past 6 months, I'm trying not to cuss for the people at home. I do have a profane mouth if you're new to the stream. For the past 6 months, we have been waiting on new animations. The only thing that has been released on Warhammer TV is the Knights episode, which was okay, but you could tell that it was a Bolin production, the same guy who did Hell's Reach and Angels of Death, just because of the animation style. And also the combat, while interesting, was not like coherent or well choreographed or whatever. So I got a little frustrated because it's like we only got one. Then we got one fan animation, which was done in Arma, which was Scorch. That was also really good, but it was good as a passion project. You could see the passion that was put in, but the choreography and the details we're not even getting close to. We're getting nowhere near close to Astartes, which is very frustrating because from our perspective, at least from my perspective, Astartes 2. Assuming that Siame Peterson dedicated, I think it took him like 4 or 5 years to complete 13 minutes, right? Assuming that he was doing that as a side hustle while he was in college or while he was in school, you would assume that he was working on it 20, 30 hours a week on top of his regular responsibilities. And so it took him 4 years to complete. Well, he's had, I think, 2 to 3 years as a full-time paid employee of Games Workshop, presuming that they didn't fuck up the contract and just didn't tell anybody about it. Presuming they didn't fuck up the contract, he's had 2 to 3 years, and it seems like he has been slaved in order to work on trailers for video games. Now, unfortunately, due to lack of transparency, I haven't seen Siame Peterson credited in any of the animations that are trailers. But for, in particular, the Grey Knights trailer, that felt very Astartes. The Skaven Tide trailer, that was really well done, although M2 Animations also does really do good work. They were responsible for Pariah Nexus. So we just haven't really gotten a lot this year. And a year and a half ago, we got a, I forget what it's called, but it's like a roll clip or something like that. It's like where they showed like little snippets of everything that was coming up in the next year. And we haven't gotten that. So we have no preview, no transparency, no new animations, and week after week and after week after week and month after month after month, they roll out painting tutorials and fucking lore videos. And it's like, guys, Games Workshop, you could have put this on a YouTube channel and you probably would have made as much money from having like painting tutorials and other shit like ad revenue on YouTube. Why the fuck are you asking your fans to pay $5 to $7, excuse me if you're a child, but why are you asking people $5 to $7 a month in order to pay for animations that you're not delivering, and how come there's no transparency? It's absolutely infuriating. So I don't know about y'all, but the week after week of them just posting painting tutorials and battle reports, it's pissing me off. Oh man. Sorry, checking in on chat again. The 6 classes for PvP look pretty good. You know what I want to do? I want to be the Reaver with the grapnel launcher, and I want to shoot an enemy, have my grapnel burst through the enemy, stick to the other side, use him to drag across the map, and then karate chop people in the face and stab them to death with my combat blade. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to jump packs again. Jump packs in original Space Marine, the 2012 video game, was fantastic. And then I wish there was like an aggressor or a Terminator model. I didn't see that in the 6 classes preview, so I don't think we're going to get one. I really wish they had like a aggressor, like you could get into an aggressor suit and just run around, kind of like the Juggernaut levels from Call of Duty. I wish that they would have that, and maybe they will, but my suspicion is that they won't. I also, another detail, we'll watch it in a bit, but one of the things that I really like is the sword and board. So they have like the veteran who has like a power sword and he has a storm shield, and he has the pistol in his left hand as the shield is wrapped up. So he's like shooting, but the shield is still strapped to his arm, and then he's still able to wield the sword. I thought that was a really cool detail where he didn't have to sheath his sword and then fire his pistol right-handed. He actually could, you know, fire and stab simultaneously. It was great. So what the fuck says Death Guard? I just wanted to say that. Very base. Shino Deguas says, I'm a lore noob, so I don't have a good argument for or against the Femstodes, but it doesn't look like a good turn from GW. It's not like a huge thing. So this is something that I actually had a political debate about. It's not like a huge thing because Custodes, from my perspective, Space Marines are factory made, and the gene seed is something that you input into adolescent youth, and then they become Space Marines. They grow into it. A whole bunch of them are trained, you know, killed in the training. A whole bunch of them are killed in the process. However, with Custodes, they, as far as I know, they might have like some gene modification, but they are modified as a template. You take a child who is already almost like a perfect genetic specimen, and then you modify what's already there in order to make them the perfect human being. So if you really leaned into that from a lore perspective and you said like, male Custodes are everything that humanity could be from a male perspective, and then female Custodes are everything that a female could be from a, you know, from a human potential perspective, then I think it gets cool because you can kind of lean into human potential versus its realization, and that can be the thematic backdrop of the Custodes. But if it's just like, yeah, girls can do cool stuff too, then that's obviously going to suck. And if it's any kind of indication of progressive financiers getting into getting their tendrils in their claws into Games Workshop and then just making girl-oriented products for a thing that's 90% men, then I think that's going to be wildly frustrating going forward. Oh. Could it just be that they hired him just so that they wouldn't be competing animations? Yeah, but what an unbelievable waste of potential. So I think that it's possible, and on top of that, that sounds like something that Games Workshop would do, but it's such a waste of time, energy, and money that I would be so disappointed that I would actually like I might kick up a fuss about it on social media. Not that necessarily anybody cares what I think, but I would be like, Games Workshop, how do you fumble the biggest bag and the biggest ball in space, in Space Marine / Games Workshop history? That's fucking crazy. Soma Sailor, I really don't trip about females being worked into the lore, and 40k humanity is fighting for survival and listing females into the fight, in my opinion, as a necessity. Sure. I think it's what I've complained about is more of the thematic issues. However, I do prefer the balls to the wall attitude of the male perspective. I agree as well. Thoughts on the balanced datasheet? I haven't gamed as much. From my perspective, I've actually only heard mixed to bad things about 10th edition. I've heard some people have enjoyed the objectives, giving it like more weight because OC helps you focus on something besides murdering the other team. So it's not necessarily about getting tabled. It's more about like board control and being tactical with your stuff. But from my perspective, the whole reason why I play in the first place is to murder things. RC says, I still miss Sodaz's animations. They were S tier. True. The graphics weren't as good, but the guts of them were fantastic. Ghosty says, Custodies themselves are works of art, as Counterpoint stated. They are just min-max as humans, and if that were the case, a majority of the non-necessary body mass would be removed, making them all the same. I don't know about all the same, but I think they would be approximate, but the whole thing is that you're trying to maximize human potential. If you're catching my drift. I vaguely do, but I'm not quite sure if we're on the exact same page. But anyways, let's continue on with This Week in Warhammer disappointing me.
Head over to our YouTube channel, as Emma has the mighty Lord Vigilant on Gryfstalker, and
That's a cool
Adam
model.
has the cunning and sneaky Clawlord on Norbeast, both painted to a glorious standard, ready to lead your armies into battle in the newest edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar.
Even if I don't like the lore, even if I'm not as into like Warhammer Age of Sigmar, you can't deny that the model design for Age of Sigmar is like peak. They're doing a gosh darn good job.
Whatever Warhammer hobby you're up to this week, head to the Sunday preview article over on Warhammer Community to find out more about all of the upcoming releases. And make sure to keep up to date with all the latest news by following us on the Warhammer Community website, as well as Facebook.
All right, they're just shouting out their socials. So we're going to exit out of that. We're going to check out the Warhammer Community news. Now, a lot of it is about Age of Sigmar. So unless people are like, no, Connor, stop, I really want to know more about Age of Sigmar, then I'm probably not going to dwell on it for too long. But I don't want to do YouTube. I want to do Mordian. I have not convinced enough people to check out Mordian, but you need to. Right there, Cyber Rats. So somebody said that they want Skaven in 40k. Rogue Nomad says, in my humble opinion, 10th edition is really good. The tactical secondaries make the game very dynamic, and the app makes it way more accessible. That's good to hear. That's good to hear, because I have not heard overwhelmingly positive things about it. So the fact that you sound like you play frequently and that you actually enjoy it is fantastic. So Intuitive Jackal says, I want Skaven in 40k, to be honest. They'd be a fourth army to collect. So here you go. So Mordian is a former Games Workshop producer. They were in their vehicles department and helped design tanks, if I remember correctly. And they created a line called Cyber Rats, and it is 40k Ratmen. So I'm not a huge Skaven fan, because I think that Skaven kind of thematically fill the same role as orcs, where they're just like this infestation of dirty, disgusting, savage creatures. Now they're more cunning than orcs, so they're almost like goblins in a way. They fill like a similar but slightly different niche compared to orcs. But that's glorious, right? Like, look, it's like a Ratman. They got fierce fangs. They got the Nurgle Pustulence kind of thing going on. They got the tech going on. They got the huge claws and fingers that make them look like they might actually be capable of manipulating. You know, they have like opposable thumbs and shit, so they can manipulate technology. They're obviously grown, so they're huge and creepy and dirty and disgusting. Like, that's kind of cool. I'm a big fan of that. So while I would probably never buy this line, I would be very happy to play against it if somebody went out of their way to make them. But anyways, yeah, Gene Stealer Underhive, kind of, yeah. So if you want to min-max a human, it's more logical to begin with a better base for a warrior. True. Gene Stealer Underhive. Yeah, I actually like the new Gene Stealers for Necromunda that are, I think they're called like Warp Strain or something like that. If we bump into them, I'll show you. But they're like mutated Gene Stealers. And I don't mean mutated in a good way. Like, Gene Stealers are already mutated because they're already a part of like the Xenos Tyranid Hive. These are guys that are like corrupted and foul and gross. So yeah. Ghosty says, you are helping people watch Warhammer and Bolter without paying for a crappy half-made subscription service. So I'm of two minds on this. One, I want to advertise because I want more people to get into the hobby. That way GW has more money. That way they can make more products. On the other hand, I think that they have severely underinvested in it. So whenever I start to feel guilty about cutting a third of the TV show out and then filling it up with lore, I don't feel guilty anymore because Games Workshop is so routinely fucking people over. It's actually sad. Like, their lack of transparency on Siame Peterson, you're going to hear me bitch about it repeatedly because it is actually a point of contention for me. So this is just talking to the design team about Scaventide, I guess, and the redesign of Stormcast. So it looks like they're already doing a redesign for Age of Sigmar. I think it's the same thing with Primaris Marines. They just want an opportunity to make cool new sculpts for the same units that they already have. The truth is that they're not that old to begin with. Like, look at this difference. These models are perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with them. These guys look a little bit slimmer and they have more detailed helmets. So obviously what's probably happened is they have more detailed machines that can do more detailed work now, which is great. I'm not complaining, but is that really worth a total redesign when you could focus on other factions or redoing old world stuff or redoing Xenos in 40K? Like, I know it's like a tired trope to talk about Xenos in 40K, and I know that Stormcast are probably the main sellers for Age of Sigmar, the same way that Space Marines are the main sellers for... Thank you for the dono. I'll check that out in a second. The same way Space Marines are the main sellers for 40K. But at the same time, like, this feels a little early, right? Is it like the Age of Sigmar team? They don't want to start working on 40K, so they went back and redid everything in Age of Sigmar. Kind of frustrating. This is a beautiful new model, though. I'll admit that. So, yeah, it just looks like a lot more detail. I don't think they need to do a whole relaunch, but whatever. I'm just an asshole. Well, QC John says, just sending a super chat to show off my 1 year badge, not a 40K-er, so just peacocking. 5 more to see you in AJW again. Mad Connor is best Connor. True. Thank you, well, QC John. And by the way, I hope you've made your way over. I think I've seen you as well over on Counterfire. For any political nerds who just, follow up on this this little VOD or whatever, all the political content has moved over to Counterfire, which is linked down in the description, and Counterpoints, the essay channel. So yeah. Spearhead debuts on Warhammer Plus with a battlefield report. And again, doesn't this feel like a story about nothing? Right? They're literally saying, we have a battle report. Well, guess what? I can go on to Winter's SEO. It's like the joke is like girls on OnlyFans and you can Google big butt and get 1 billion results. It feels like that, but for Warhammer TV, where they're like, we have a battle report. And it's like, well, I have other people for battle reports. I could watch Table Talk Tactics if I wanted. I could watch, Say Hi Paul. I could watch Winter's SEO. I could watch Liam. I could watch, that whole crew if I wanted battle reports. They've worked their butts off and they are supported by their fans. Therefore, I would rather support them than people who are making 40 to 50 grand a year in order to work on Warhammer miniatures. And then when it comes to painting, of course, there's the girl who left, and then there's also Duncan Rhodes. There's 2 or 3 charming, charismatic, talented personalities that I would like to support, whereas you are the corporation. Do the corporate things. Make the animations, you buttholes. But anyways, looking at this, Warhammer and community staff paint the Skaven of Skaventide, so they're showing off the new models for Skaventide. See, these are like cute. I don't know. Like I would have no problems murdering them because they're rats, and so they're like gross. Like I would love to shoot this thing with a musket. That would be fantastic. But it's not like my first move. You know what I'm saying? It's just not. I don't want to make it. I kind of want to kill it. So if you out there in the audience, if you want to start making these giant Goliath, hulking, musket wielding, blade wielding rat men, then please do so, and I will happily murder them. Even though I don't have an Age of Sigmar army yet, but I'll probably do the free cities once they release more in their range. But I'm also considering doing a free cities army third-party bits, because the truth is there's better third-party bits for the free cities. Oh, geez. Rogue Nomad says, bum number 1, Space Marines are very diverse. Going against Dark Angels right now is a totally different experience than, let's say, going against White Scars. That can be true, Rogue Nomad, of using, like, what do people prefer? So obviously with, like, a lot of White Scars players, they'll favor bikes and mobility and all that kind of stuff versus, you know, I run Death Watch, so I'm kind of like jack of all trades, master of none. But an Ultramarines army will typically be very, like, by the book, just, you know, field troops with heavy support, although you can technically do whatever you want to do. So yeah, but like Space Marines do have flavor. And then also one of the things that's nice about Space Marine versus Space Marine battles, so far I have gotten jacked by win at any cost Harlequin players, and I have gotten jacked by win at any cost Imperial Guard players. And they just annihilated me. And it's because they really had optimized their list, whereas I was playing more narrative. Whenever I play Space Marines, though, I've lost, but it's always felt close. And I think the reason why it felt close is because whatever he could do to me in a turn, I could turn around and do back to him. And so it didn't feel like just one army totally gets frickin' annihilated. Excuse my French. I'm assuming that more children, more teenagers will be checking out the streaming Warhammer content. So I want to be mindful of my swear words. That way, if the parents overhear, then it's not just a profanity-laden rant. Well, QC John says at Counterpoints, yeah, I've rolled over to Counterfire, just wondering, is there any way to roll my badge over to that channel? Unfortunately not, buddy, but however you can support me, deeply appreciated. So this is about the lore. I don't necessarily want to like read all this stuff. I'm just kind of going over it because it's Age of Sigmar, so it's not a big deal. I promise we'll get back into video content in a second. But I feel like these helmets are an L for me, for the free cities. Think of like all the cool helmets that you could have throughout history. There's like the Greek hoplite armor, armor and helmet. There's the Roman centurion helmet. There's the like medieval knight helmet, which this is like closest to, but still not great. It's like a bucket helmet. There's the, come on, why am I drawing a blank? The Winged Hussar's helmet, which is kind of like a Roman helmet, but with like a little shield nose blade in front of it. There's so many historical cool helmets, and this looks like a bucket. This looks like a bucket with a wooden shield. Like, why? Like, I get that they're normal people, but do they have to be buckethead soldiers? Is that the best we could do? And the sculpts are beautiful. So, like, I have no problems with the sculpts for the men-at-arms or the swords or the, you know, the bows and arrows or any of the weapons. I have no problems with the weapons and the poses. I do just have a problem with the helmets and the faces. I think they kind of made them lame. Personal opinion. If you like them, good for you. I need Rat Titan concept art. That would be sick. Absolutely. So, Zeno de Gua says opinions about Legions Imperialis. I like that the epic scale allows you to do bigger battles with titans and all that kind of stuff. So for instance, it seems like efficient from a models investment standpoint to do that, but I just really don't like how tiny the dudes are. Like the dudes are like they're like the size of the Ripper swarms. So not a fan. I'm here for the space marines, I'm not gonna lie. So I do like the bigger battles, but it's just not my vibe as well. Yeah, Spartan helmets, you could go with Spartan helmets, kind of like the Greek hoplite thing like we were talking about earlier, or you could do Spartan helmets, like, you know, obviously this isn't Warhammer 40k, but you can sci-fi up the Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard line and kind of, you know, make them more ODST or Helldiver or whatever, just for fun, you know. Marcavia says, hey, yo, have you heard of Trench Crusade? It's basically Foxhole 40k. Yeah, and there's also a video game that is not, if I remember correct, it's not set in Trench Crusade, but it might as well be. And Trench Crusade, for those of you who don't know, it's 40k set in basically World War I, World War II era. It does look grimdark. It does look fantastic. It's Earth. There's a portal to hell that's opened in, you know, Israel, basically. And the Crusaders and the Muslims and the Jews and the Hindu and all that kind of stuff, they all have militias who have coalesced in fortresses around the portal to hell, but they combine like knight aesthetic and swords with World War I style rifles and artillery, and it looks great, and it does look fantastic. Apparently there was this move when they released the Fem Studies, there was a bunch of Chudhammer people who wanted to move over to Trench Crusade because they assumed that since the aesthetic was so hardcore, that the artists would be Chuds as well. And it turned out that they were just as progressive, if not more progressive than Games Workshop. So yeah, it's that's frustrating for sure. And like, I don't say like you have to be Chuds. I just want you to be like normal, right? Just want you to be normal. Wolfie says lift the brim and then make a part you can pull down and you could have a whole army of Dark Helmet from Spaceballs. Yeah, that's the problem though. That's the problem. Bum number one says 0.1 better percent women can be put between 10% of men. It's impossible to find women that can be compared to the 0.001% of men. The 0.001% of men are the base to recruit the Custodes. I agree, Marduk, but, you know, we can have a little bit of space fantasy. And also, for instance, I was saying this earlier. So Custodes, if I remember the lore correctly, and feel free to correct me in the chat. However, Custodes are supposed to be like the elevation of humanity to its ultimate form. They are the Emperor's bodyguard. They don't need to eat. They don't really need to sleep that much. They can stand guard for 100 years without dying. Without relief, you know, without moving a muscle. They can basically like freeze their metabolic system to the point that it doesn't kill them, and they can subsist off of the advanced electronics of their armor. They're humanity elevated to its ultimate pinnacle. And so while that is obvious for warriorhood, Custodes are also like poets and diplomats and spies, and they run intel and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, you could have the peak of masculinity in a Custodes. You can also have the peak of femininity in a Custodes, and that would be thematically coherent. Whereas I think what the Space Marines represent and what the Sisters of Battle represent is the peak of men at war, but mass produced, so their humanity is not as relevant. And then same thing with the Sisters of Battle is they are females raised to the peak of being females at war. And so, you know, it's like two different contexts. One is civilizational, one is just war. So I don't think there's a contradiction, and I think there is cool thematic things to explore there. Foxhole is persistent war game like Trench Crusade, except way less scientific religion fantasy stuff. Cool. There's in fact a regiment that is like ODSTs, the Elysian Drop Troopers, my beloved. True, and I do love them. I'm more talking about ODSTs in aesthetic though. So kind of more like modern paramilitary patches, not paramilitary, but modern military patches and kit and drop helmets and all that kind of stuff. Hear me out. Imagine they added a 2v2 duel game in Space Marines with just swords like for honor. Well, Well, if you have microphones and or a full lobby, then you can do that. Yeah. That sounds like they're better than Space Marines. Custodies are better than Space Marines. In lore, they are better than Space Marines, 100%. Female Custodies can lean on genetically enhanced agility, speed, maybe a secret Eldari connection. Yeah, you can come up with a variety of lore ways for female Custodies to be, marginally better than Space Marines and still, substantively better than Space Marines, but not as martial as their male peers, but still competent warriors who have other things to add. That's absolutely like a narrative that you can dig into. Intuitive Jackal says, also in lore, Custodians don't refer to themselves as a brotherhood, right? They used to refer to themselves as a brotherhood, but now they changed it to something else, an order or something like that. But grand narrative, people just playing the campaign, that is a sick cosplay. That is also a sick cosplay. Man, I just want to be sweaty in my cosplay, go into narrative events. That is cool. Kill team balance. I do love space dwarves. I'm not gonna lie. So I don't think I would ever collect them just because, I'm 6'4", so it's not for me, I don't think. At least not in a way that I would like really get into and invest my own narrative into or whatever. But for all the manlet kings who are dwarf maxing, I think that's based. I also think that they bringing in the beastmen for kill team was also a super based move. So not a lot of people are going to be into beastmen for kill team, but I do remember reading, it's one of the first Gaunt's Ghost books. They're actually talking about the fall of Tanith, and Ibrahim Gaunt, I think it's following him at the time. Bear in mind, I read these books like 10 or 15 years ago. So actually probably 20 years ago now. But Ibrahim Gaunt walks out of his office, the planet's under attack, there's bombardment everywhere, there's las cannons, there's fire in the distance, all that kind of stuff. And he walks out of his fucking office and he's walking down a hallway towards an evac point, and there's a fucking beast man of chaos in the hallway. So there's just this champion of Khorne that has a fucking goat head, but it actually fits on a human body that's all rippled and muscular, and it blares at him, and he has to kill it with his chainsword and his bolt pistol. And that was so visceral and terrifying that I remember it to this day, because I was like, what the fuck is going on? Thank you, Dan Abnett, for this amazing adventure. So Beastmen, while again, it's not something that I'm going to collect, if somebody else collected Beastmen, I would love to shoot them with bolt pistols. Or really anything, to be honest. I would love to kill them with anything. I do like the scouts. I think they could have tacticooled the scout outfits a little bit instead of leaving them as the classic ones. But I am happy that they redid the proportions. They gave them kind of classic bolt guns. Hey, you're a new guy, so you can have the old gear. That's kind of the vibe. It's you haven't proved yourself yet. That's sweet. Also, the new Striking Scorpions sculpts are really good too. So, yeah, they're... So all in all, this is my thing. A lot of, I'll check it out because I saw somebody say something about the Chuds. Chuds love to, and by the way, I'm a Chud. Okay. So if this seems like a dig, it is, but know that you're in good company. The Chuds on Twitter anyways, they just love to complain. And here's the thing. I love complaining too. I'm a big fan of complaining, but I also love models and creating and painting and lore and narratives and books and video games and thinking about the thematic backdrop and thinking about the future of sci-fi and thinking about, the unified timeline. I really love the unified timeline prehistory that I created. I love the bolter that I created. So there's a billion things that you can acknowledge all the things that frustrate you, but you should also focus on the things that got you passionate about the space in the first place. And if you can't focus on the things that got you passionate in the first place, then you're kind of, you're hurting yourself. You're not hurting anybody else. You're making the place a worse place, and you're hurting yourself. It's kind of stupid. Marcavius on Twitch, he says, Chuds just need to main GURPS. I don't know what that means, but feel free to explain it. RC says, hear me out, imagine they added a 2v2. We just addressed that. Maybe a doom wheel the size of a warlord. That would be sick. As a guard player, Rogue Nomad says, I run combined arms, 3 tanks, 1 storm sword, 1 rust demolisher, and 1 Dorn. Kazarkin riding a Torox, Creed ordering bombast field guns, Lord Solar in the midst of the 3 tanks. So Rogue Nomad, that sounds like that. If that's 2,000 points, I don't know if that's 2,000 points, but that sounds like that would destroy any Death Watch list that I could create. Because I only have like 1,000 points worth of armor, whereas it sounds like you have 2,000 points worth of armor. So what would happen in a game, my prediction, would be all of my armor would dent your armor, then it would be annihilated off the table, and then I would be left scrambling with infantry for the few side objectives and the few objectives I could control with the infantry, and then I would just be losing like 30% of my infantry every turn. So that, like, no offense, that sounds horrific to play against. Oh yeah. All right, we were addressing whether or not they're better. They are better. Brandon Myers, what's up, everybody? Hey, Brandon, so you're saying what's up, everybody, like you already know everybody. That's fantastic. I appreciate you being here. Just to let you know, like, most people who come to the live streams are used to us doing politics on here. We're going to be doing a weekly Sunday Warhammer community hangout, news roundup, etc., etc. Yeah, Brandon Myers, I strongly recommend Gaunt's Ghost. Can't recommend it enough. I cried over multiple characters dying. Intuitive Jackal says, complaining about something that has passion and reason behind it isn't a bad thing at all. I agree, but I think it's when you fall into the trap of always crying and always complaining instead of talking about what you're passionate about. So yeah. Can you bring your knights? No, I don't want to cry. And thank you for subscribing, Paul. It is appreciated. So let's see. This is just local events, so that's not going to be that interesting. Warhammer Studio redesigning the core rules of Age of Sigmar. I don't play Age of Sigmar. We'll just look at it for the art. The new Stormcasts are beautiful, but again, a lot of people complain about them being Sigmarines. Not my thing. I do like that the demons are cross-universe. And I think I brought this up in a recent video that I was scripting. In my mind, Age of Sigmar and the old world are effectively the gods playing chess in the warp. So they created like a stable realm. The gods of order and the gods of chaos. They created a stable realm on which they could do battle for shits and giggles in the warp. And then that's what the old world is. And that's what Age of Sigmar is. That way it can fit into the 40k universe while still having its own consequences. I'm not going to watch Meta Watch. I'm not a huge, again, like, I'm more of a narrative player, so I show up with the points, I play the objectives, I try to kill my friends and have fun. I'm not like super into win at any cost, so I don't necessarily care about that. Warhammer community staff paint the Stormcast Eternals of Skaventide. Well, let's see if they do any. That is beautiful. So one thing that I can appreciate, so again, I'm not like a huge Age of Sigmar guy. That detail is beautiful. Red and gold always mixes super well. Blue and gold, purple and gold. To be honest, anything in gold is great. I do like it when there's like metallic warriors, like knights or whatever, and they are painted like an insane color, like blue. Like, you would never go into war with like blue armor in a practical setting. You're basically saying, look at me, I am very pretty, I am coming to kill you. That's what you're saying when you paint your armor blue, is like, I'm so pretty, I don't need to worry about you seeing me because I'm going to murder you anyways. So, and that kind of fits, like, especially with Space Marines. Space Marines are so hardcore that it doesn't matter if you see them, they're going to kill you anyways. I love that. I think that's hilarious, wildly impractical, and very cool. So, yeah, and green and gold looks great too. Look. This almost looks like, I thought this was a Dark Angel for a second. Obviously, wrong setting, but still. So, RC says, I just want a 40k game. I'll get to the dono in a second. I just want a 40k game similar to Mountain Blade on Battlefront 2. Yeah, a Battlefront 40k game would go wild. And to be honest, if it's not in some form of production, they're insane. Rogue Nomad says, do you consider competitive 40k players professional athletes? Just kidding. Listen, there's something, right? And what I would say is, win at any, there's a difference between being a talented wargaming player that thinks about tactics and the way that you move your units in order to optimize your best chances of winning versus trying to leverage every possible dickheaded rule that makes absolutely no narrative sense whatsoever in order to get more points so you can win the game. And I think the latter really is lame. So Sung Min Balajian. For $9.99 says, hey Connor, your thoughts on possibly Deathwatch being rolled together in Agents of the Imperium Codex? Also, my first Space Marine army was Deathwatch. Yeah, mine too. So I have 3,000 points of Deathwatch right here. Agents of the Imperium, as long as we get good rules and we get good access to the Space Marine inventory, I don't really care, to be honest. Like for me, Deathwatch is more about the lore than it is about anything else. And what I mean by that is being able to recruit from every Space Marine chapter and being able to, like, I have every Space Marine chapter represented in my army. And I actually have one from every Legion. I even have like a whole bunch of, let's call them Black Shields. Let's call them Chimeric Primaris recruits. But I have a whole bunch of Chaosified but Loyalistified after they were Chaosified Space Marines. And so the detail and the beauty of Deathwatch is being able to paint every single chapter in black and silver, but bringing out the details that enrich it. So if they're still just a Space Marine chapter, but they get good rules, I don't care at all. It's totally fine. It's more about the rules. I started playing back in 8th edition, and back in 8th edition, one of the most mind-blowing and frustrating things was the Corvus Blackstar didn't have Power of the Machine Spirit. And it was one of the few vehicles that the Deathwatch could take. The only other thing they could take was like Rhinos and Razorbacks, I think. And so as a result, you had a whole bunch of people with Corvus Blackstars because they thought they were beautiful models, and they were totally whiffing all of their heavy shots. So they would whiff with their las cannons, and they would whiff with their missiles, and they would whiff with everything because it was hitting on a 4+. And meanwhile, they're just getting absolutely annihilated by Chaos Space Marine and Space Marine players who actually have 3+ and Power of the Machine Spirit. And it was so obviously like a rule omission that just didn't get addressed for like 2 or 3 years because nobody gave a shit about it. It was so frustrating. So that's why I feel bad for Deathwatch, is because they're so cool lore-wise that nobody cares about them rules-wise. Nukamunda hired gun playthrough one day. Oh yeah, for sure. Victor Charles. So one thing is, like, when you start playing video games, we just got like 30 people hanging out cross-platform, which is totally fine for me. This is like our first stream doing Warhammer sci-fi stuff, so I'm not expecting to have like 500 live the first time. But the problem with like gaming streams is if you're focused on the game too much and you're not addressing chat, then you're just going to lose people. So for instance, if I just fire up a video game right now and start playing it, we drop down to like 10 or 15 people. And I don't want to ignore 10 or 15 people while I'm playing a video game. That doesn't sound like a good time for anybody. But yes, the goal eventually is to like get big enough and have enough fun and have enough of an audience that we can do some video game playthroughs together, and then maybe do some video game reviews. Rogue Nomad says, I have a trophy from a big GT. I ended up dead last, but I got the sportsmanship award as I lost with so much grace. No. I'm sorry, buddy. They were like, hey, here's a trophy for getting the shit kicked out of you. Victor Charles says Wes Hammer's video on the Space Marine problem is interesting. Well, yeah, and we can do that too. So I want to do like this week in Warhammer and community breakdowns and any news breakdowns. I want to do that, but we can also check out other people's content and react to it as well. So we don't have to be stuck in just community news. We can also check out other people's videos and react to them and break them down and all that kind of stuff. That'd be fun. My first army was Guard and then Alpha Legion, Iron Warriors, and then some Adeptus Mechanicus. All of those are based. Those are all great choices. Deathwatch game would go hard. It's true. And a few Assassins because the miniatures look cool. Of course. I love Assassins. I think one of my first models was the Vindicare. Designing the new Skaven while respecting the classics. So we can just check out more Skaven. Again, this is still Age of Sigmar. Again, it's not as sexy, but we'll go check out some cinematics in a second and wrap up the community news because it seems like it's all Age of Sigmar. Some of these go hard, like the Horned Rat. I think that's like their god, so this is obviously going to be like a priest or something like that. That model goes hard. Some kind of leader riding a mutated Beast of Burden rat, that goes hard. I would love to kill these things. And also that one clip of Hanover Toll and his buddy in the sewers almost getting stomped out by Vermintide. That was awesome. If you haven't seen that, just open up in a new tab, the Hammer and Bolter playlist, and check out the Worse Than Death is the thumbnail tag. I forget what it's called. Veterans react to the new edition. Nobody cares. Or not nobody cares. Some of you folks at home can care. I don't care. Warhammer studio interview, fine-tuning the nail-biting finishes of Spearhead. Again, just more Age of Sigmar stuff. And it's like, fellas, you have... I know 40K gets more love, so I shouldn't complain too much. But it seems like because they were building out Age of Sigmar, they actually got a bunch of artists to design. Like, so for instance, these are the... I forget what they're called. The Slan is the Toad versions, the really smart ones. But these guys, they're just lizard men, right? So they probably have like a pretty limited following. But if you look at the models and the sculpts, they did a beautiful job with it. And it's like, why don't you take a fraction of that energy and instead of doing a redesign for 5-year-old models, redo all of the Xenos lines in 40K? Because the truth is, we can't all be Imperial players. And I know it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy where like Imperial players buy Imperial, so more Imperial stuff gets the refresh, which sucks. But that's also a self-fulfilling prophecy because if you never refresh the Xenos lines, nobody's going to buy Xenos, even out of curiosity. So the Necrons refresh was good, but Necrons got nowhere near the love that anybody else did. And the partial Eldar refresh blows my fucking mind. It seems like Eldar would be the most obvious ones. Both Drukhari and Ajurani and doing an Exodite line. That seems like the next logical thing. But hey, good news is we are getting to the cinematics. So let's check out some questions again, and then let's check out the cinematics, and then we will check out Skulls tonight. I think we're gonna watch the video game stuff tonight. Deathwatch are really cool. I love Deathwatch. I love that they're partially in the cinematic for the Space Marines 2 section. I can understand why Black Shields don't talk. Yeah, it's because they don't want to snitch on themselves. If my first model was from AOS, it would be the Vermin Lord. They look badass. Yeah. Some of those Skaven look good. I also got drawn into Deathwatch due to the lore. I remember me of the Delta Force teams and how they recruit. Yeah, so the reason why I got into it is obviously being able to recruit from all chapters. But I really do like the fact that it resembles MARSOC, so the Marine Special Operations Command. SOCOM, excuse me. So the Special Operations Command. And the reason why is because each branch has their Special Operations unit. So they have the SEALs, they have Green Beret, Delta Force, Army Rangers, all that stuff. They have the Marine Corps Raiders. And so it was just really, 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 really cool to think about all of the best warriors coming into one unified military command in order to take on the most elite and dangerous of missions. And that's what I love about the Deathwatch lore, because obviously like each Space Marine chapter is already elite, but then to be recruited into the Deathwatch while potentially a suicide mission is just that unification of command in order to go take on the most dangerous missions. And I have to imagine that a lot of Deathwatch, let's say that we were putting it in like human terms, probably a lot of it is preparing like specialist gear on some dickhead fucking moon in some place where like Drukhari like to raid a lot. So you're just sitting around fucking shining your specialist gear all the time. But when it's go time, when the Drukhari attack and they start like raiding settlements within it or whatever, it's fucking go time. So you're grabbing specialist gear, loading up in the coolest vehicles, riding out to the biggest fucking battles. And not only are you a part of like insane battles, but you're not there to take part in the biggest battles. You're there exclusively to take out high value targets. And so that to me sounds very cool from like a lore and narrative. I'm looking for my little back cane thing because I got knots in my back and knots in my neck and I don't like doing it. I promise I will get to your dono in a second. Let's continue on with the other comments before we get into the cinematics. I got my Black Templars done, 2,100 points. Beautiful. Congratulations. Honestly, painting and assembly is so much fun, but it is so time consuming. Cowboy, did you listen to Warhammer back in the day? I hear they are back now doing a podcast. I did not, but maybe we'll add them to the list of things that we'll check out whenever we're streaming. Mike Monk, do you play fantasy or the old war counter? If you do, which race do you play? So I don't, but my game plan is I will probably get into Age of Sigmar eventually, but I want to play as the free cities. So basically the mortal men. I think that that is one of the coolest thematic niches in both 40k and fantasy, being like mortal men facing down demigods and demons and powers that you can't control and all that kind of stuff. I love that. And my goal would be to build kind of like a knight men-at-arms army that I could proxy in the old world and in Age of Sigmar. That would be my game plan. And I would just go crazy with the kit bashes and customization. Sniper 40k assassin game would also be awesome. Oh yeah, a Vindicare game. Like imagine Splinter Cell, but you're playing as a Vindicare assassin in the 40k universe. That would be fucking sick. Rat Ogre versus Ogre in the Pits of Kamra. See, I don't know if you caught it earlier, Adeptus Serpentis, but there's a company called Mortian, Mortian, and they make beautiful cyber rats. Yep, RC says a Black Shield game would be amazing, to be honest. What would be amazing is if you got to customize which legion you came from, so your character had like some specific traitor thing. Like if you were Iron Warriors or if you were Night Hunters. I always say Night Hunters. I mean Night Lords. Member for 13 months, Level Pogue. Message. For the game chat issue, maybe try turn-based games so you're not required to lock in and cam look at chat. I think that's a decent middle ground. Fondue, it's true. So PF Young is another centrist creator, and he has autism. And he got into Warhammer, and we played a couple of rounds of Tabletop Simulator together, and we could do that, and we were banting a lot while we were talking. So we could do that, but there's not a lot of like visual spectacle, I guess. So anyways, we can try. Drazar say, hey, that's me. Hey, Drazar, how are you? Good to see you again. Soma Sailor says, hey, give the man some likes. Yes, please. Liking is free. So I really do appreciate the dono so far tonight. To be honest, you guys are a little bit more generous than my politics people sometimes. So far. So thank you for the donation so far. But liking the stream is free. So if we're, hanging out with 30 people and we got like 5 or 10 likes, you should just like the stream. Even if you're going to leave in a minute because you got shit to do, like the stream before you leave. We're the coolest vehicles, go into the coolest battles, and we're going to kick the coolest ass when we get there. Lol. Exactly, Brandon Myers. Exactly. And that's why I fell in love with them. Excuse me. I also just finished 45 Chaos Space Marine Legionnaires. I am thinking about doing an Iron Warriors warband called the Iron Empire, based off of their ambitions during the Horus Heresy, where they tried to conquer real space in the name of their non-god, but in the name of their legion, and so they could evolve the strongest humanity possible. That would be sick. I would love to create the Iron Empire. Rogue Nomad says, thanks so much for staying real, Connor. I have been able to make great new friends via 40k, and I'm also in law enforcement. You're definitely an inspiration, but thanks for all you do. Well, thank you, Rogue Nomad. Thank you for hanging out. It's appreciated. Iron Lord Hotek Moore brings up a very interesting point. 40kers have money, politickers are brokies. That's kind of true, but only because the Warhammer people need at least to have $5 or $10 burning a hole in their pocket. That way they can buy new models. So if we're hanging out, having a good time, showing them some cool things, maybe instead of buying their next Citadel pot for fucking $8.99 plus taxes for $11, they'll give me $5 or $10. So this is actually a really good point. Thank you for the making that point. Without further ado, let's check out. So I know 70-80% of you guys probably you're more 40k than you are fantasy. It's just a numbers game. I think 40k is more popular than fantasy. But that being said, there are still good cinematics for Age of Sigmar. So we're going to check those out first just because it's cool. I'll pause intermittently in order to, you know, break down details that I think are cool. Yes. All right, let's check it out.
Sigmar lied. Sigmar told us we were chosen. Warriors, stolen from death.
All right, so let's break this down a little bit for, especially for people who might not be aware of what's going on. So this is Age of Sigmar. This is fantasy. In my head canon, the fantasy realms are just like timeless play chessboards in the warp that allow the gods to play with mortal playthings. I'm being redundant, but still. And the god, Sigmar, used to be immortal in the old worlds. He did so many great deeds that he achieved apotheosis, meaning he became a god. He was a god of order, lightning, and thunder, so think like Thor, but then maybe a little bit more Renaissance, a little bit more knight, like medieval. And then that realm was destroyed. The old world exploded. And then what happened is Sigmar was floating in the void, depressed. A celestial dragon, some serpent in space, found him, and together they were able to conjure magic from the remaining shards of the old world and reconstitute reality. And so they were able to build realms that were based off of the magic that was in the old world, and each realm had an emphasis on certain kinds of magic. So there's like Akshi, which is the realm of death. There's, I'm trying to think of the different names. I don't remember all the names, but there's like the realm of fire, and there's the realm of metal, and there's the realm of life, and there's the realm of something else. Who fucking knows? But the point is that in the mortal realms, whatever realm you're in, that magic is more powerful, but each magic bleeds over into the other realms. And souls started populating in these worlds. So the dead souls of the old world kind of like coalesced and became physical inside this realm. And so human beings and orcs and other creatures from the old world reconstituted here and were born into a world that they fully didn't understand. But it's actually kind of crazy imagining yourself as a human being born into a world that has magical rules and then trying to compensate as a mortal creature. And I think that's what's interesting about the Age of Sigmar and the old world is you're a human being, but you're born into a world of gods. And as a result, you just have to cope as best you can. And so you run around just doing what you can in order to make sure that you and your people survive. But the world is so brutal that, you know, who knows? And so what's cool, I'm not saying the Stormcast are that cool. I'm saying I appreciate this. You don't have to appreciate it. What's cool about the Stormcast is that they were lied to by Sigmar in a way. Now, I would say, who cares? But anyways, they were lied to in a way because Sigmar chose his champions from the fallen warriors and heroes of humanity who died either proving some great battle prowess or some great moral character. And so when we see this female running away from Zangors, I think there's Zinchian demons, she's screwed. And she knows she's going to die, and she knows she's screwed, but she acquits herself well in battle anyways. And then Sigmar might have been watching her for a long time and realized that she has some kind of moral character or grit that she wants, or that he wants to add to his army. So when you die, there's Nagash, the god of death. Your soul can be claimed by any god, but instead of the soul of this warrior being claimed by Nagash, the Lord of Death, it's claimed by Sigmar instead. And so Sigmar is sometimes called the thief, the thief god. He steals souls and brings the souls to him. And so she's stolen from Nagash and becomes a Stormcast. And then Stormcast are imbued with lightning, imbued with the power of their god, but so they're fierce warriors and they're hardier, stronger, faster, smarter than normal humans. So in that way, they fill the demigod or the Ubermensch role that Space Marines do in Warhammer 40k. But This will be my last rant, and then we'll get back into the content. But they don't have a choice. And every time they die, they're reforged, meaning that their essence is reforged in lightning and they're brought back to life over and over and over again, which actually sounds awesome. I wish I was Stormcast. But you also get dementia after a while. All right, let's continue.
To be reforged as his weapons.
Faith.
The immortal sons and daughters of the Storm God. Sigmar lied. He never told us the true cost of this honor. Soon, all that will remain of me is an echo, lost to the storm. But until that day, I fight.
Yeah, so based. So yeah, so let's break down a little bit more lore. This is actually fun because this is available on YouTube, so the chances of it getting copyright struck are very low, and we can explore some lore rants together, like in the good old days, back when I used to just do rants and pauses and rants and pauses and rants and pauses. So there is this weird tension that I do think maybe I'm inhuman in a way, because when I signed up for the Marine Corps and I did law enforcement, you sign up to give your life away. So it's voluntary in a way where you know that the process is going to change you. You know that it's going to mess you up. You know that it's going to mess with your psychology, that you're going to have physical scars, that you're going to have mental scars, et cetera, et cetera. And in that way, it feels voluntary, like a choice. Whereas I guess these people never really had a choice. And so they have a weird form of anxiety and PTSD where they have their life is combat. They're constantly reforged and thrown back into battle, reforged, thrown back into battle, reforged, thrown back into battle. And something that they do need to dial in is it seems like Stormcast die way too easy. Like if you watch the Black Talon series, it seems like a stiff breeze goes through their armor and kills them. But anyways, the point being that they have an anxiety and a PTSD because not only do they have the memory of their old lives, but they also almost exclusively have short fractured memory of all the times they've been in combat. And what happens with each reforging is a part of their humanity dies every single time they come back, and a part of their memory of their mortal life dies with it. And so what happens is they're slowly being chipped away at into this like perfect weapon for the storm god Sigmar. Now, for me, that sounds awesome. That sounds great. If you could guarantee that I could live forever and I would just have to go into battle and just murder the most horrific beasts for all of eternity, that sounds like something that I would be very much interested in doing. But I think that volunteering for that versus not knowing the ultimate fate of your realm, and also losing so many battles and dying so many times, sometimes in the most horrific ways possible. One of the ways that we saw this this female Stormcast die was like Nurglite flies flying down her throat and then eating her from the insides, which is pretty hardcore. You know, it's cool and it's awesome, and I would do it compared to just living a mortal life and then dying. But I think we can allow them some anxiety and PTSD for this role. And I think it's fair to give them that and explore that from a thematic basis. But I'm going to check in on chat real quick, just review any comments that we have from there. That was the end of the cinematic. I'll check and see if there's anything else. Oh, let's talk about Skaven real quick. Okay, so with Skaven are pretty interesting. Skaven are rat men. They burrow between reality, meaning that they literally dig their way between the realms. They like psychically burrow through the dirt, but they also burrow through like the psychic Ethereum between realms. And so there are trillions of them. There's the reason why I said that they filled a similar thematic gap to the orcs is because there's so many of them. They are uncountable and they breed like rats, right? And so what happens is there's so effing many of them that they will collapse tunnels in on themselves. They'll compete with each other. They'll stab each other in the back. They're really like cunning and shrewd, but they're very short-lived. Each rat thinks that they're the main character, and so they try to backstab each other in order to climb the social hierarchy. They do develop technologies that are powerful. So for instance, we saw the Gatling gun, and we saw like the muskets and the snipers and all that kind of stuff, which is very cool and shows that they have the potential to be something bigger, but they're so selfish and narcissistic and self-interested that only a few of them get to be powerful, whereas all of the rest of them are like the roadkill rat, where they either get stabbed in the back by a stormcast, or they get, you know, run over by their own machines, and then none of their lives are valued at all. If a Skaven Lord dies, he'll be replaced a moment later by somebody who is as ambitious for his position. And if a Skaven prole, like a proletarian Skaven, dies, nobody's going to care either, because who gives a shit? There's another trillion of them, and there's another, you know, billion born every second. So yeah, it's kind of cool. I kind of like it. I do like cyber rats. I do like the Mordian models. Again, it's not something that I will ever collect, but it is cool. So yeah, let's just make sure that this animation isn't the same. That's the same animation. I think this is the same animation. Oh, this is like the teaser trailer for it. That's just YouTube. That's Skulls, so that's the main thing we're going to be watching. And then Space Marine 2, behind the scenes, Space Marines overview, Space Marine 2, Space Marine multiplayer, and Space Marine 2. Okay, so I have chugged a lot of water, so I am going to read your comments. I'm going to hit the restroom, and then we're probably going to do Space Marine 2 content, and then we're going to do Skulls, because Skulls is going to be the longest, so I want to give it its due, so to speak. I have 2 bids for the new Sisters Canines with Jump Pack. I think you might have meant a different word besides canines, but yeah, some of the Sisters models are pretty sick. Honestly, I want to make my Space Marine character something close to a Witcher character. Do it. Do it. You could have them have 2 swords, a power sword and a chain sword for different targets. Why not? My first model was an Ultramarines Firstborn Biker. I was so proud. Dude, I have pictures, so I still have a couple of models because I couldn't bring myself to throw them away. But I had a assault intercessor, not an assault intercessor, a assault marine from the Blood Angels, but I wanted black, so I painted him black with red. And I was so proud of myself for doing a kit bash. I found a left-handed pistol, so I gave him 2 bolt pistols, and then I had a chainsword. I chopped off the hand of the chainsword and I glued it to him. So he was like dual wielding bolt pistols, and he had a chainsword stabbed to him. The paint job totally sucks. 2 layers, like spray painted black, red paint shittily dipped into his eyes and put onto accented stuff, and then maybe a little bit of metal on it. And I love that model. It was so good. And there is I have like another 3 or 4 models like that. Marduk says, Sigmar was Conan, but fighting with a Warhammer, and he would be more close to Crom than Thor. Interesting. Soma Sailor says, their duty is eternal. True. Zangors are Chaosier beastmen, I think. True. Fondue said that. iPlatinum Soul Die says, if you were an immortal warrior, dementia would probably be a blessing in disguise. Keep things from getting mundane. True, iPlatinum Son... Am I going blind? Soul Die. iPlatinum Soul Die. Yep, no, true. And that's something that as you get older too, your memories kind of take on like a weight. And so like I've lost, pets, I've lost family members, I've lost, there was some hardcore stuff that happened at work. And the truth is that like you don't ever want to forget those things because they're part of what made you you. But the more you hang on to them, the more they weigh you down. And so there's kind of like, I think the appropriate way to deal with traumatic memories and loved ones that you've lost is to, categorize them, analyze them, organize them, and then put them away. So kind of like defragging a computer. So they take up less space in your brain and they're not as heavy as a traumatic weight. But I think it's true that if you did not care about your mortal life prior to being recruited by Sigmar, and if all you cared about was fighting for the forces of order, then ultimately forgetting some of your most traumatic battles would kind of be a relief in some ways, because you could not carry that weight and then continue to focus on being a weapon and fighting the battles that need to be fought. And in that way, it's actually really thematically worth exploring. And I hope they do that. I hope GW has the intelligence to explore that. Fondue says, I do like the new Skaven Planner Rupture Vermintide aesthetic. Yeah, it looks good. They're doing a good job, right? They're doing a good job. It's just misapplied because obviously I'm a much bigger fan of Warhammer 40K than I am Age of Sigmar. So, for me, it's like, take all of that energy, that borderline Astartes level quality cinematic animation, and then give me a 20-minute action-heavy animation of Space Marines just absolutely wrecking shit. Intuitive Jackal says, lol, that poor Skaven. That became roadkill. True. Rat Daka makes it a proper scrap. True. And honestly, Skaven versus Orcs would be a sick battle. The Emperor lied. True, Brandon Myers. True. Skaven Blade is their capital, if I'm correct. RC Amersalt says that. True, but I also think that they, at least this is what I was told, in tunneling through reality, they create new cities. And so they kind of, I don't know if they have a capital that they all pay deference to. That would be news to me. Cruntis Vulpis says, lore was never solid for GW. They always bent it to whatever they thought made money at our expense. Literally, we all play despite that because it's 40K, but yeah, this latest is bothersome. No, I agree with you, but that's where I think it's up to us as a community. I really do. I have 36 of your earballs right now. I think it's up to us to take the best parts of 40K and ignore the cringe parts of 40K and continue to press in the direction that is worth pressing into. Like, I really like my unified timeline. I like doing all the science fiction prehistory stuff. Unfortunately, I did post a video of the movie Prey with the Yautja fighting the Predator from Predators, fighting Comanche Indians, but the views were so low I ended up taking it down because it just wasn't worth it. But in general, I think it's up to us to look for the cool things. Ghosty, my school-age brother just came up to me and said, don't you play Warhammer Age of Sigma? Yeah, true. We need to lean into the Sigma memes. Sigmar lied about the Vietnam War. Indeed, indeed. But let's do, you know what? I'm feeling it. I'm a little dehydrated. So, well, actually, I'm very much hydrated, but I'm feeling a little like the heat is taking some of the water out of me. So let's just go ahead and watch some of this stuff. Let's knock out some Space Marine 2 content. So this is going to be a tour of Kadaku. So let's check that out. You're deployed on the planet Kadaku. Help the Astro military push back the Tyranid invasion. Jungle world infested with muddy forests and swamps. Deadly flora and fauna. Imperial fortresses. See, I like a lot of the implications of very subtle things that are here. So, for instance, Kadaku, right? Econo Boy says, "Hi, Mr. Points. Good evening, Mr. Econo Boy. We are actually not talking about politics today. We are talking about Warhammer. So you are more than welcome to hang out, and thank you for hanging out with us." So what I like, Call of Duty Guardsman sounds good too. Yeah, I was actually really disappointed that they took GW skins and threw it into Modern Warfare 2. Or whatever the new Modern Warfare is. But anyways, so what I like about Kadaku, right? Kadaku sounds wild. It sounds like someplace in like Africa, right? Or maybe the Amazon. Someplace like where indigenous people have their own... Kadaku is live footage in my bedroom. It sounds like a place that's like wild and exotic and different and tropical. At least that's to me, that's what that name kind of means to me. And so the fact that Imperial forces, bear in mind that like the galaxy has been colonized for a really long time. So it's like 10,000 years. And the fact that Imperial colonists only have fortresses on a forest world, a jungle world filled with deadly flora and fauna, basically tells me that this place is wild and difficult to tame, even with Imperial technology. So it's either a recent settlement, making it a newer planet, or it's a settlement on a planet that is so wild, they cannot properly colonize it. Kind of like Catachan or Catachan in a way. And so that's actually pretty flipping cool because you understand why the Tyranids would target it. Because since they're the ones who are capable of consuming all biomass, almost no matter what it is, that means that this is a ripe target for them because the Imperial forces will be low, but the biomass will be high. And so you can understand why the Tyranids are here. Now, maybe the Space Marines are here to push back because they don't think the tendril is that large and there's some cool fortresses that are worth defending here. But my suspicion is that this is a place that only a Pyrrhic victory could be achieved. The only way that you could win is by almost dying to a man, and that's because of the rich biomass. So there's a lot of implications here that I really like. And then also the combat. Let's check out some of the combat because some of those combat moves were sick. And let me turn back on the volume a little bit. Well, actually, let's not do volume just so we can do visuals and I can break it down for you. This is the cool thing about like Space Marine combat is being able to open up with bolters. So you're firing at your target, but you're not staying still and you're not waiting for him to come to you. You're continuing to advance because you are the cover. You trust that your ceramite armor will be able to take the hits, which is part of the reason why it's such a strong power fantasy. Then you get into close combat. You've wounded your enemy. Well, he just blew his head off, so he wasn't even waiting for the melee. Nice. Titus, you dog. But this is the cool thing. So you have this Hormigaunt, right? This would be the equivalent of a xenomorph, so in Aliens, this would be the equivalent of like a xenomorph drone, like their basic foot soldier. And instead of getting eaten by a xenomorph drone, Captain Titus literally catches it in an execution move, grabs it by its arms. It's now screaming, and he's ripping its arms out of its sockets. That's the kind of detail that I do love about what's going on with Focus Entertainment and Space Marine 2. You can have as many fucking female custodies as you want, as long as I get to be a Space Marine, an 8-foot-tall demigod of war who is able to rip xenomorphs apart with my bare frickin' hands. That is awesome. Whew. Okay, and then here, he literally walks up to a Tyranid warrior and just like gut stabs him, like eviscerates him. Heck yeah. Fudge, yes. That is beautiful. Let's get into official PvP, official gameplay overview. Let's do... I'm going to leave the behind the scenes for the last one because I think they say some pretty cool stuff in there. Let's just check in on chat real quick. Hi, I'm Mr. Points. Yes, hello, Econoboy. COD Guardsman sounds good too. I think a Call of Duty clearing rooms with frag grenades, crack grenades, las guns, like hot shot las guns, Tempestus Scions armor, battling with Ogrins, all that kind of stuff. I mean, relatively speaking, that is Darktide. Darktide is like Call of Duty Guardsman, to be honest. So you just, Victor Charles, you just need to buy Darktide. RC Armorsalt says, the game feels like Gears of War and World War Z had a child. Oh yeah, somebody asked about Gears of War earlier. I am happy about it because obviously having like a new Gears with an updated plot and updated game mechanics and updated graphics is probably going to be super fun. I'm also excited about it because it will probably revitalize interest in the Gears of War Lancer firearm, which obviously I plan on producing that eventually. So... that is fun. The difference between Gears of War and Space Marine, though, is you are the cover. You do not have to stay behind cover because you can move into the enemy, allow their strikes to bounce off of your armor, and then you can rip them apart. So, yeah. And, like, ripping them apart gives you, like, it's like a rage boost. It's like Doom. You kill the enemy for health, which doesn't make sense, but who cares when it's fun and bloody and visceral. Fondue is Space Marine. Fondue says, is Space Marine 2 set in the campaign that Marines lost in the offset to 10th? If by that you mean the incursion, I think it's High Fleet Leviathan. The incursion of High Fleet Leviathan, I wouldn't be surprised if this is an offshoot of that story. Marduk says, in Brazilian, Portuguese Kadaku can have a really fun meaning. Well, you should tell us. What does Kadaku mean? Is it poop or something? What is it? I'm going to move it to a different screen. That way, if it's something gross, you guys don't have to see it. Kadaku, Brazilian translation. Brazilian size? What? Yeah, you're going to have to translate that for us, bud. We don't fucking know. Kadaku in Portuguese? Portuguese. Translation. What does Kadaku mean? Kadaku definition. A strong desire, great vigor or liveliness. Interesting. Okay. You can tell me what it means to you, but that's what it means to me. Great vigor or liveliness. Well, we're going to have great vigor or liveliness in order to kill the frickin' Tyranids. Death World Tyranid fleet? Yeah. Yes. Me at the dog kennel trying to get my dog. Their armor is hatred. Yes, the armor of contempt. Yeah, Ghosty, you beat me to it. Actually, their armor is contempt. I've wanted a Gears of War E-Day game since Gears of War was a thing. Awesome. Then Brandon Myers, it's good to be alive, isn't it? Especially compared to the alternative. Atlas Imperius, I'm really not too bothered they canceled the beta. No, I don't care. I don't care. Take as long as you need. If they wanted to push it back to summer of 2025, I wouldn't care. I would rather have a good, well-delivered Space Marine 2 that popularizes the franchise to many more people and also is not only a trip down nostalgia memory lane for us Space Marine 2012 players, but also has lasting cooperative and PvP gameplay that keeps the community alive at least for 6 months to a few years. And then there's still like a small hardcore community that if you want to jump on and do a cooperative game, or if you want to jump on and do a multiplayer lobby, you can still do that. Like Titanfall 2, for instance. Titanfall 2, I think it got ruined largely by a hacker, but I almost guarantee you, if there wasn't a hacker ruining the gameplay, they would still have an active multiplayer community because the game is just that good. So, all right, let's check out the next one. Let's see what's going on. This one is 6 minutes though, so I might pause intermittently. Helldivers format is ripe for a Salamanders game. Yes, it is, but also Helldivers is ripe for a ODST Elysian Drop Trooper, and Tempestus Scion game. Like, literally, a Tempestus Scion skin for Helldivers would make me ecstatic. All right. Let's do it. Beautiful. Those guardsmen are beautiful.
Welcome to Space Marine 2, the newest installment in the Warhammer 40,000 franchise. Brought to you by Saber Interactive and Focus Entertainment. I'm Oliver Hollis-Like, creative director on the project, and today I'm going to take you on a tour of the game's story, game modes, progression, and a whole lot more. Giving you a taste.
Hold on. Go back. Sorry for the pause so quickly, but we are here to hang out together and appreciate our shared love of Warhammer. So if you want to watch the original, go watch the original. So, what? That's a bone sword, obviously. Is this a hive tyrant? This thing's fucking huge. Is this a Norn emissary? Does anybody know? I don't have the models off the top of my head. So it has this giant spike, which reminds me of the Norn emissary, but I don't remember the Norn emissary having a sword. Whatever that is, that thing is terrifying. I do like this command center perspective because it kind of reminds me of when you go into the command center with the female lieutenant Imperial Guardsman. Like, you can see all the action going on outside, and look how complex that environment is. Like, my computer is gonna... I have a new computer compared to 3 or 4 years ago, and my computer is gonna have problems running this shit, I swear to God. Yeah, Adeptus Serpentis says it's a hive tyrant. Okay. I figured. It's got to be something big and bossy. And look at this. This is some customized... I was telling you about this earlier. This is basically a Blade Guard, right? He's got Blade Guard veteran. He's got a power sword. He's got the shield. Now, what they could do, because this is the way a lot of the posing the miniatures are, is they could have you swap between the sword and the pistol. But what they did instead is they put the pistol in your weak hand, your guard hand, and then they just have you fire it from behind the shield. I think that is a genius way to avoid having to do change animations between your pistol and your sword over and over again. Now, on one hand, it's cool to do weapon swaps and all that kind of stuff, but from an optimization of combat perspective, I really like this choice. All right, and then, sorry, well, let's get into space real quick.
And today,
so we have gargoyles chasing the Thunderhawk.
I'm going to take you on a tour of the game's story.
This is one of the ones that I wanted to point out. Here's a, what is it, a fire drake, a hell drake? It's a chaos flyer that is a demon engine mixed with a flyer.
Game modes, progression, and a whole...
And then this dude's in space, so I'm assuming he has his helmet on. I'm hoping he has his helmet on.
whole lot more. Giving you a taste of what's to come when the game releases on September 9th. Space Marine 2 is a third-person action shooter set in the grim, dark universe of Warhammer 40,000. The game's campaign mode allows you to experience this epic story either solo or with up to 3 players in co-op. Space Marine 2's story begins a century after the events of the first game. Captain Demetrian Titus is a genetically enhanced super soldier and hero of the Ultramarines.
We will eradicate your kind from the galaxy.
Titus is returned to the Ultramarines,
You're a lieutenant now.
where he is demoted to lieutenant
Will that be a problem? No, Captain.
and forced
So, just want to point out that Titus is literally me, for real, for real. I fucking wish, bud. I wish I was Titus. But the, what was I going to say? So I love the attention to detail under the Thunderhawk, where it has all the, what would you say? Like the vertical thrust. I don't even know what you call that, but it has like vertical engines in order to help it do VTOL, which I think is super cool. I like that you have 2 of your boys and that you're running into the fight. I like that one of your boys has a jump pack, which kind of indicates to me that not all of you have to have the same gear at the same time. So being able to like be in assault or heavy support or, you know, whatever while you're fighting should be sick in order to like either all be the same thing, so it feels like you're just a swarm of the same thing attacking the problem, or alternatively, you have different things that complement each other. I think that would be sick. Also, he killed a Carnifex single-handedly. I'm going to love that. That's going to be a huge point of my life is killing a Carnifex by myself. And then I'm trying to think of what else. The Helldrake was just beautiful. But let's continue.
To prove his loyalty in the heat of battle. On a distant world, he must face one of humanity's most fearsome adversaries, the Tyranids. As you take control of Titus and his fellow battle brothers, Chiron and Gadriel, you'll be thrown into the thick of a war of galactic proportions. Thanks to our unique swarm technology, allowing us to render hundreds of real enemies on screen at the same time. You'll face seemingly endless waves of crawling, running, and swooping enemies as far as the eye can see. You must repel the Tyranid invasion and rid the system of the Xenos threat, battling in the claustrophobic jungles of Kadaku, the majestic planet-spanning metropolis of Avarax, and other epic locations.
Oh, they said that you were... I don't know if that's a different planet, but they said that you're going to be on the jungle planet of Kadaku, and you're also going to be on the planet-sprawling metropolis of Avarax or whatever. So you're basically mix of urban and jungle environment. Somebody says, attention to detail, very nice. I think that's... and then Adeptus Serpentis says the same thing. So the models are beautifully rendered. I know that each one of these models has like a data slate. They're all relevant. All the weapons are relevant. Everything is beautiful and beautifully rendered and all that kind of stuff. Literally my only anxiety is whether or not my computer is going to be able to render all this stuff. It's crazy. And then he has 2 studs in the first game. A sentry would mean he has 3, not 4. I agree with you, Victor Charles. I think silver and gold though. We would have to count the silver and gold studs because I think like silver is like 50 years or whatever. But the point being too, I think I'm not saying that this is accurate, but obviously the characters have gone under some evolution. I would say that the dude with an eyepiece potentially could be Leandros. It could be a bearded, battle-hardened, bionic-eyed Leandros who has ascended the ranks and was previously responsible for you getting sucked into the Inquisition and having to serve with the Death Watch as a penitent crusade. But Titus is obviously battle-hardened and grizzled, and, you know, his Imperial Guard girlfriend is long dead. And now he's facing a new crazy battle where Xenos create an incursion on a planet, and then Chaos takes advantage. So, I mean, frankly, I'm as excited to fight Zinchian horrors as I am anything else. He's actually the Space Marine Primaris Captain Miniature. I agree with that. I agree with that. Obviously, that the Phobos Captain looks like that model precisely. I just wonder if he'll be named. Yeah, zero-G scenes in orbital battles. Yep, we saw him with a jump pack out in space. Kind of like drop it into the planet. It's going to be sick. All right, sorry, let's continue.
After each successful mission, you'll return to the Battle Barge, a space fortress serving as the Ultramarines' orbital headquarters. Here you can gather crucial intel by interacting with onboard personnel.
Okay, so this is one thing that I don't like, but I'm gonna give them room to cook. Okay, so we got 3, 6, 9. So 9, 18, 27. I can't do math. 36, 45, 50. So we have a demi company here. There should be 1 lieutenant in charge of all of this. And they have the Rhino. They got a repulsor. They got like a repulsor executioner. They have an Invictor warsuit. They have, or these could be both be Redemptors. I don't know, but one of them could be an Invictor warsuit and then another repulsor. And this is all great. This is all beautifully rendered. There's no problems with that. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to return to the battle barge over and over again and have it like interrupt the momentum. Because Brandon Myers is sad about the guard girlfriend. Yeah, well, unfortunately, your mortal companions as a Space Marine will all die. They're like, the way that we look at dogs is the way that Space Marines look at mortal humans. It's like, yeah, you can meet a cool one, that he's going to be dead in a few years. And so on one hand, like, I'm really excited to explore the environment and look at all the details and all that kind of stuff. But I also think, one, it leaves an opportunity for mistakes. So for instance, this is a demi company. So am I going to go on board and I'm going to see the same demi company with their dicks in their hands every fucking time I go on board? That seems kind of crazy. And then two, it also seems a little crazy that the first Space Marine was a narrative campaign that moved you from location to location to location to location with a series of cinematics, but it all felt like this roller coaster of action that you were just stuck on because you had to move from mission to objective to objective to objective to objective. Whereas with this, if you keep revisiting the battle barge over and over and over again, it's going to feel like you're more questing, like you're doing like mission quests instead of pursuing a coherent and naturally developing objective. That's my objection. Now, that being said, I will let them cook, and I am very much looking forward to consuming their meal. Ghosty says, me and the boys being Reavers. Hell yeah, dude. I want to play as all of it. I want to be Jump. I want to be Gravis if they have it. I want to be Blade Guard. I want to be Phobos. I want to do all of it. I think it's going to be sick. It is 3 different planets. It's Avarax, Kadaku, and Demirium. So Avarax looks like a civilized planet that has a planet-sprawling metropolis. Kadaku is the jungle planet that does have some Imperial fortresses. And then over here, even though my face is covering it, there's Demirium, which looks like the Tzeentchian infested chaos hurricane planet. That's sick. Okay. RC says if there's a meta class, I'm in. No. You're medic. Your first aid is your biology and it's rage. That's it.
Review your next targets and tailor your loadout to your upcoming mission.
See that, okay, hold on, sorry. I'm gonna amend my previous statement with an addendum. Reading the mission briefing and then customizing your gear loadout should be pretty sick. But let me back it up for 5 seconds so we can appreciate the jump hammer. Let's let it flow for a minute.
Personnel. Review your next targets and tailor your loadout to your upcoming mission.
For the Emperor! For the Emperor!
Whether you prefer close combat or ranged warfare, the Ultramarine's wide range of equipment offers you an array of devastating weapons and unique...
What a dick. So that guy has their version of the heavy bolter, and then he also has the pyre flamer, which is the new version of the flamer. Sorry, I'll let it flow, but that just made me very happy.
Special abilities. A balanced approach is certainly wise, since performing a brutal melee finisher replenishes your armor and keeps you in the fight for longer. Shred the enemies of humanity with the iconic chainsword.
Yeah.
Liquefy them with the melter rifle.
Yeah.
Or crush them with the mighty thunderhammer.
Yeah.
How you vanquish the Tyranid invaders is entirely up to you.
Your duty.
All right, so hold on. Let's pause for a second. Yes. You recover your armor with time and health by doing executions. It's if equal to Space Marine 1. Yes. So it's the same. Hey, Jonah. Good evening. Tzeentchian Demon World? Yes, there's a Tzeentchian Demon World. Mission, exfil, debrief, refit, repeat. Yes. Which feels like it can interrupt the flow, but if the gear customization keeps it exciting and fun, I will forgive the interruption in mission flow if the gear customization makes it fun. Like, if it's like, oh yeah, you're going to be doing a bunch of ranged anti-tank stuff. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm going to pick an assault marine with a gravity hammer anyways, you know, or an assault marine with a heavy thunder hammer anyways. Like, that's the kind of thing where you could jump into the mission and then you start getting like graped by like carnifexes from carnifexes and the exocrines and all that kind of stuff. You just get graped by like heavy artillery and heavy attacking units, and you're like, okay, I picked the wrong loadout, I'm gonna back out. Like, that could be super fun. But yeah, but either way, it's gonna be great. I do kind of want to shout myself out though. So I appreciate everybody who's already donated tonight. Again, it was very nice of everyone to do donos tonight. I just want to point something out. So channel's doing fine. Okay, we're doing fine. I'm still figuring out, since the Predator/Prey movie breakdown that I did not do good numbers. It was literally like 800 views over 3 hours. It seems like we're stuck in 40K, but that's fine. I love 40K, and there's enough here that we can at least have some fun. So I might finish the Hammer and Bolter series and do the redos, just because there are some little tidbits that I could reshare that I think are good. And also it just seems like the algorithm is fine with them. So whatever, we could do that. The Interrogator series we can redo. But the other thing that I'm still working on in the background is obviously the weapon stuff. The weapon stuff just takes more time. Something that I want to point out though is eventually, we were talking about how we want to spend money together on our various science fiction hobby nerd stuff. Eventually, I want to get a mill, and I want to mill a aluminum or steel haft, and then I want to mill a steel blockhead of a fucking thunderhammer, right? I didn't even see any new uploads from you, fuck. Well, yeah, Jonah boy, it's not a big deal. It didn't do that great. Don't worry about it. Like, even if you watched it and you were like, this is the best thing since sliced bread, and then you liked and commented or whatever, it still would not have saved the video. But Mike, just pull out the power fist. Yeah. But the point is that, like, imagine, so if the materials cost to me is like $50, I'm selling it for like 100, right? That way I have enough profit in order to justify making it, and I can turn that into other projects and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, can you imagine for like $100 or $200 having like a human-sized thunderhammer that looks like it could actually work? And then if somebody breaks into your house, you can actually just bash their skull in with a functional thunderhammer. Like, and of course, like, Adeptus Serpentis says steel. Oh man, maybe aluminum for your shoulder's sake. Yeah, but like the point is, like, we would have to go with like a hardcore aluminum pole that is capable of bearing the weight, and then we would need like a steel head or something like that. But the whole point is to have it aesthetically be real enough that you feel like you have a wall hanger, you know, you got something that you can put on your wall. But then let's say I live in Florida, an alligator breaks into my house and I need a weapon. I can go grab my semi-functional thunderhammer and be like, get the alligator or I'll crush your skull. Anyways, just sharing my world with you. So let's continue on with the co-op mode.
Is not yet done.
Beyond the story campaign, you'll find Operations Mode. Here, the focus is on cooperation and replayability. Play as one of 6 classes with unique skills and abilities.
Yeah.
Then develop and customize them to make them your own. Whether you prefer the Sniper's stealth cloak and long-range capabilities, the Vanguard's grapnel launcher, or the Bulwark's chapter banner and storm shield combination, your Space Marine specialty, along with those of your squad mates, will be decisive on the battlefield. The more missions you play, the more you'll unlock cosmetics for your Space Marine. You'll also earn XP and armory data that you can spend in the Battle Barge's armory to unlock new class perks and improve your armament's performance.
Dude, a Phobos Marine, I didn't even see what he was attacking, but kneeing a warrior in the face in order to explode his skull. Come on, man. Come on, man. Ghosty. Some have a shotgun on the mantle. I have a chainsword. Ghosty, you can have both, okay? You can have both. And what I mean by that is up here, I got my bolt gun, my 73 or 72 caliber 12 gauge semi-automatic magazine fed shotgun with a PLA plus cosmetic case that makes it look like a bolter. You can have a bolter, and you can have, and I have a Mark 18 or an M18 Milwaukee chain, prune chain or something like that. It's like the most powerful mini chainsaw. And I put like a 16-inch blade on it. Now, I haven't had enough time because I'm working on the, this guy. I know I haven't made much progress, but I've had to build his neck. And because his neck is more complex, I've had to like reinforce it in order to make it more printable. But I'm trying to print out a 3D skeleton so I can paint this, you know, like bone colored, and then paint his vital organs red or flesh or purple. and then I want to put a silicone body over him so I have something beautiful and fleshy to explode, because I do have explosive bolt rounds. I have explosive 12 gauge shotgun rounds sitting right next to me. And so I desperately want to make that video for you guys. But the truth is, this is probably going to take another month of development. Then I have to figure out how to get the silicone done. Then I have to go back and blow up the, then I have to go blow up my silicone target, make a new video, hopefully get a few 100,000 views, and then use that money for more projects. So yeah, power claws to deter breaking and entering, true. I'm kind of hoping for this to be like Helldivers, but to like the 100th power level, no bullshit balancing that makes the game last fun. Yeah, they nerfed the railgun before I could get to it, so unfortunately it wasn't that fun to play with. Are you basically a salamander with all the crafting you're doing these days? Yeah, Wendell, yes. All right, let's continue.
Eternal war demands eternal discipline.
If you're into more competitive challenges, well then you're in.
Hold on. You guys got anything going on with the yellow and black stripes? Yes. In the 6v6 mode, you can be Chaos Marines. So that's in the video game. And then with the bolter or the chainsaw or the chainsword, we can make whatever we want, man. We can put on any cosmetics you want. So if you want the steel skull Iron Warrior symbol, and you want to make the skull gold or bronze, and you want to make the shell like metallic silver, all day, even like a dark, like a gunmetal gray, god, that would look good. Yeah, I want to make these things for you guys, but unfortunately I need more time and some more money. But let's continue. You guys have been more than generous tonight, so thank you kindly.
For a treat. Enter the fray in our eternal war mode, where you'll be able to pit yourselves against other players. 6 Space Marines clash against 6 of their sworn chaos adversaries in arenas inspired by the game's rich settings.
There's a Khorne Berserker.
Choose your preferred rule set, be it the intense Annihilation Deathmatch, strategic Seize Ground, or the exhilarating Capture and Control. Then engage in adrenaline-pumping matches that will test your skills against players from across the world.
Yes.
Each skirmish offers you the chance to earn more XP and add more weapons to your arsenal as you prove your valor on the battlefield. That's all just a taste of what is to come.
Oh, you guys saw that, right? So in the multiplayer, they have a Redemptor. So there was a really popular game mode where you could play as a Dreadnought. So watch this. It's only a frame.
As you prove your valor on the battlefield.
Right there. Boom. This is still multiplayer, if I understand correctly. They're going to have the Dreadnought game mode.
That's all just a
Here's another multiplayer or co-op Marine.
Taste of what is to come. We can't wait for you to experience the passion and care that our teams have poured into this game. We've got more surprises in store for you, to be revealed very soon.
Melter Rifle, multiplayer.
In his name I will fight! For the Emperor!
So I think the 3 main characters...
Pre-order the stand.
...is obviously Titus, his black friend, and maybe his Asian friend. Yeah. All right. So you guys, I have been holding my bladder for, probably an hour longer than I should have. So you guys are going to have to entertain yourselves for a minute. I will be right back. So entertain yourselves. Talk to your fellow chatters. I'll be right back. Give me 2 minutes of peace. You guys play nice while I was gone? Yeah. Emperor's Children? True. So what's my favorite Chaos Legion? It is Iron Warriors. I know they're the most boring, but honestly, I just love their lore. I just love that they're grumpy Imperial Fists. And grumpy Imperial Fists, or like Imperial Fists were already grumpy, so they're pretty fucking grumpy. Adeptus Serpentis says, which Loyalist chapters are playable? So what I saw is in co-op customization, it looked like it was only Ultramarines, but you could pick whatever color you wanted. So it was kind of like customizing Ultramarines. And in the campaign, obviously, it's only going to be Ultramarines. But it looks like when you're playing Chaos in the multiplayer, you can be whatever Warband or Legion you want. And then in Space Marine 1, you could pick different chapters. So you should, my presumption is that you can have different chapters, especially in multiplayer, maybe in co-op. But anyways, let's check and see if there's any new information in these other two Space Marines, and then we'll check out Skulls, and then after Skulls, we'll probably call it a night. So let's do it.
We kill it. We break the synaptic connection.
They'd scatter like rats.
And if you're wrong, if it's not there, I cannot afford to throw men after a hunch. Give me 2 squads.
3 Space Marines. That's all I can spare. Brief them immediately.
Approaching drones.
Talassa, we are almost there. What is your status?
Drop complete. Moving to objective.
Acknowledged. Proceeding to relay.
Lassa on the march to take that Hive Tyrant's head.
Maintain Vox reports.
Clear that wall-climbing scum! Death to all Xenos! Now we end this. I have been dying to carve up some Xenos.
Oh, I saw a Power Fist.
Bomb is in place, Command. We can make it. Keep going.
The lights will guide us, brothers. Going to kill you soon enough, demon! Hold fast, brothers! Withstand the heat and keep moving!
All right, hold on. There was something here. Let's see if we can find it. It looks like they were blending the campaign and the co-op, which is unfortunate because I wish that customization would extend a campaign. But honestly, it's not a deal breaker for me in the slightest. There was like a Fallen right there. He has the classic Fallen Dark Angels vibe. I'm not saying he is Fallen. I'm just saying he's green and he's got the hood. His plasma gun, plasma pistol overheats. What is this? Is this a Hellbrute? That's what it looks like. Yeah, this looks like a Zinchian Hellbrute. So the same way that you can fight a Carnifex and kill it is the same way that it looks like a Dreadnought, a Chaos Dreadnought, a Hellbrute, is going to be a mini boss. That is sick. That is so sick. I am ecstatic. Oh, man. All right, so that looks good. Big fan. Not too much to comment. The only thing that I thought, or the details that I thought were cool, I like the Hellbrute, obviously, little mini boss. And then I also saw the Power Fist. What's funny is I always thought Power Fists were like super fucking silly. Excuse my French. I always thought they were super silly, but there was the opening. So one of the things that we're going to do streaming here, because obviously, like, I want to stream realistically, I really enjoy politics. I really enjoy geopolitics. I really enjoy psychology, all that kind of stuff. But I also love, Warhammer, and I also love science fiction and all that kind of stuff. So the truth is that there is going to be like a limited amount of breakdown content. We can always do the This Week in Warhammer. We can always do the community articles. We can also check out like battle reports. Like I wouldn't mind watching a Winter's SEO game or watching some like cool lore video and pausing it intermittently in order to interject our own takes on it. But one of the other things that we can do that I'm thinking about that I would not mind having some feedback on is we could almost do like a weekly book club thing. And what I mean by that is we can do the weekly roundup news, whatever coverage, but then we could also do an audiobook. So we could do the Horus Heresy in chronological order, hang out as a chat and listen to the audiobook and pause intermittently in order to give like breakdowns. And the reason why I bring that up in reference to the Powerfest is because in Flight of the Eisenstein or Eisenstein, one of the main characters who's kind of like younger and more impetuous, I think is the word that I would use. He has a Powerfest and he describes it beautifully and he describes why he loves it. And in his description, I fell in love with the weapon that he did. It was great. So, anyways, let us continue on our adventure.
We kill it. We break the synaptic connection.
Is this the same one?
Scatter like
Status.
I think this is the same one. All right, that's the same one, so let's get rid of that one. And this one, I think this is going to be the last Space Marine 2 before we get into the skulls, which is the release of all of it. So let's check it out. I think we might have done this. Let's see.
Space Marine 2 is a third-person action shooter set in the grim, dark future of Warhammer 40,000 that puts you in the middle of a war against the tyrannies for the control of an Imperial solar system.
Did we do this? I feel like we did this.
Explosions. It is a passion piece.
No. We didn't do this. It's just kind of related. Adeptus Serpentis for $5 says, "Book club me, lore master." Casey Bodwell, good evening. Good evening, brother. All right. Let's, I feel like this is reminiscent of the other one, but I don't think this is the same one because I don't remember seeing this guy on camera. So let's just break this down, even if we already did.
You in the middle of a war against the tyrannies for the control of an Imperial solar system.
You're right in the thick of the action, and hopefully people never have experienced that kind of aspect of the Warhammer world.
We feel that it is the combination of all the things that we worked so hard for so many years to do come to life.
Yep. We wanted action in the sky, on the land. We wanted flames. We wanted explosions. It is a passion piece for all of the people working at Saber.
You have to understand that when I hear that from the creators, it buoys my spirits. So when I hear from the Acolyte, just as an example, if you're a Star Wars fan, that's totally fine. I'm not trying to dog it too much, right? But what I heard from the Acolyte production clips that were brought onto YouTube is, oh, we love the Star Wars universe. We can't wait to bring our own voice to it. We're so proud that there's going to be women and black people and this and that, and we're giving it our own voice and all that kind of stuff. And what I'm not hearing is, okay, black women or, black people, women, whatever, cool. Inject your little diversity, whatever. But what I'm not hearing is passion for the source material. And what I just heard from that guy, now he could be bullshitting, right? I don't see any reason to think he's bullshitting. And he seems earnest in his interpretations. And I've heard him talk passionately about this project before. But when he says, this is a passion project for everyone at Saber Interactive who is working on it, that buoys my spirits because it tells me that they care and love about this IP as much as I do. Or hopefully they do. And so that should translate into the work that they're creating. And there is legitimately like look at this, just this one frame. Okay. So in this one frame behind my face here, it looks like there's an Imperial frigate that's being swarmed. There's another capital ship right here. There's things coming out of the sky, like they could be either drop pods or they could be Tyranid bio whatever pods or whatever. We have a Thunderhawk in all its glory, perfectly modeled, with all of its accoutrements and weapons. We have a Space Marine perfectly modeled, and we have a Manufactorum perfectly modeled, and they're all sinking into the same aesthetic. I don't see any shortcuts on the screen. And so when this happens, like, I get teary-eyed and ecstatic because it feels like almost every other IP is being ripped to shreds right now. Like Halo, you can see how much love went into the costumes and prop designs for the Halo TV show, and you can see how bad the plot and the actors and the staff and the writers let down the IP to the point that it's almost an embarrassment and a cringe to anyone who was like a childhood fan of those games. So I'm praying that there are enough passionate people at Games Workshop that when BlackRock or DEI Initiative 10,006 or whatever, when they come in, they say, you need to put women in it, you need to make it lame and gay. They're like, we'll give you this faction so you'll give us money, but the rest of this is going to stay metal as fuck. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that's what I'm praying for.
When I started working on the story, I spent months reading Black Library novels like No Fear to really get my head inside these characters, to understand the Ultramarines and who they are.
So the Space Marines were created for that Great Crusade. They were a necessary component in a war for galactic unity. And the Ultramarines are one of the most iconic and famous of those Space Marine forces that have endured through the 10,000 years from their creation at the Great Crusade to the stagnation of the 41st millennium.
Most human beings in this world will never see a Space Marine. They're the stuff of legends. They're known as the Angels of Death. And so when one appears on the battlefield, it's like seeing an angel of God.
His angels.
So Titus is a lieutenant in our game.
My pledge is a
So somebody was saying about the service studs, we would have to do... No, Ghosty. Everybody pray for Ghosty. Ghosty says, Halo raised me, and then they gave us Master Cheeks. They gave us Johnny Halo. They gave us the Master Chief virgin version who bangs a Covenant spy. Can you tell me of anything? Tell me anything less Halo video games than Master Chief not being an asexual virgin who has sex with a Covenant spy. That is the wildest sentence said in Halo memory ever. But no, everything that this guy is saying is correct. I'm happy I'm happy that they took detail, so when they're narrativizing it, it seems like they're getting the lore down. I'm happy that he's saying it's a huge passion project. I'm saying that he's read novelization so that he understands like the world and how people perceive things. When he says that like people perceive Space Marines as like the God's angels manifested in the real world, that should be the amount of like awe and rarity and miraculousness that a Space Marine should inspire in the human population. That's perfectly said and well done. When they talk about like the 10,000 years of stagnation, I was wondering if they were going to mention the Horus Heresy, but it's not really relevant. So they didn't, and it was kind of perfect. So, you know, that to me speaks that like, even if they're on the outside looking in and they don't eat, breathe, sleep, and shit Warhammer the way that us do, presumably, that they care and they're trying, which is great. Oh, I'm glad the devs did their homework on the lore of Warhammer universe and the Space Marines. So far, it seems like that. Like, obviously, we'll see if there's any, you know, flies in the ointment. But yeah. Jonah Boy says, yeah, who would have thought that Master Chief had sex would be so lame? I know. Listen, I only have bad jokes from there. So anyways, but somebody was mentioning that the service studs are off from the first game because this takes 100 years after the game. Space Marine 2012. So he has 3 gold studs, which I think is 100 years each, and he has 1 silver stud, which I think is 50 years. So at this point, Titus is 350 years old. So I don't know how many service studs. As a matter of fact, why don't we check it out? Captain Titus, Space Marine 2012. Let me open up a new window. I mean, we're here, right? Might as well do some research. There's it can always be a little anxiety inducing, right? When you're streaming, you don't ever want to give you guys too much dead air because you're going to be like, oh, it's boring. But I think this is worth it. Let me check it out. Google.com. Let's check out Space Marine 2012 Captain Titus service studs. I'm just going to see if there's any images. So it looks like in the first one, he had 2 gold service stud, making him 200 years old. This one, he has 3 gold service studs and a silver one, so he's 350. So if he was at like 225 or 240 or something like that, then that makes sense. So they're not totally off. Somebody was saying that they were off in the earlier, and they're not totally off. So good jobs. Good jobs to them. Casey Baldwell says, my only beef with the games is the action is slightly underwhelming compared to how chaotic the fray is depicted. And Ghosty says, also fun fact, the creators of the Halo TV show never took the time to play the games because they wanted to make Master Chief for everyone, even though he was the epitome of he's literally me. Yeah, no, that's a fucking crazy sentence, excuse my French. Again, trying to minimize my profanity for the sake of any... in politics, I cuss all the time, so... but I'm trying to keep it friendly for any teenagers or youths who might be watching the stream. But Casey Baldwell, the game's action is slightly underwhelming compared to how chaotic the fray is depicted. If you're talking about Warhammer games, I agree completely. Although I do think that yeah. So if you're talking about Warhammer Tabletop, that is true. But you're supposed to be creating the cinematic in your mind. If you're talking about Warhammer games, that's because of limits of the platform, which I think Darktide does a good job on. Obviously, it had a whole bunch of performance issues for a whole lot of people, but I had a decent computer and it played great for me. And then Space Marine 2, which is probably going to have some performance issues, but it looks like it's shaping up to be a great game. So I'm hoping that that translation the technology will finally have caught up with the ability to do it. When it comes to Halo, I feel like the games were always pretty chaotic. And I feel like the movie during its action sequences caught like a pretty fast-paced visceral action that you expect out of super soldiers to its credit. However, taking them out of armor a whole bunch of times, totally changing the lore of the Battle of Reach, and basically changing the entire lore of the TV show or to the video games is criminally insane. Also, with Ghosty saying that they didn't play the video games, if you don't play the video games of Halo, you don't get it. You don't get why it was cool to be a super soldier who survived a galactic catastrophe for this human race, to be one of the few survivors hunted by the enemies of mankind and them seeking your entire extinction, and them trying to kill you at every opportunity, and them being competent in doing so, and them slaughtering your friends as you're trying to white knuckle grip the survival of your species. If you don't get that, then you don't get the thematic and narrative beats that made Halo Halo. And same thing with like 2 and 3. 2 and 3, while they did add like, you know, the Arbiter and dual wielding and all that kind of stuff, like the introduction of the Flood to a child, like I was probably like 9 or 10 when I first played it. The Flood level was a horror game, because here I am thinking that I'm just going to be fighting like these crazy ass aliens, and then all of a sudden I'm in a completely different zombie game facing against biological Cronenberg horrors. It was amazing. And if you don't have that kind of like emotional experience to the narrative beat change and to the threats that you face, I just don't think you get it. That's sad to me. That sentence actually, like, it makes me sad. Adeptus Serpentis says, creators failing to immerse themselves in the setting is dereliction, and you can't fake details when writing, especially in sci-fi. It's like taking the Stolen Valor derp for 2 minutes. It's cringe. Yeah, not only is it cringe, it's like insulting. Like I get why, like, I try not to get too insulted because ultimately at the end of the day, we are talking about like video games and plastic figures and a science fiction universe that doesn't really mean like it's not, I don't know, it's not going to like impact the world. Like world peace will not be negotiated because of Warhammer 40k existing, although it could. But the truth is, like, when you invest your time and emotion into an IP because of its thematic and narrative depth, and then somebody walks in and takes a giant shit on it, yeah, it is horribly discouraging. And now my family thinks that's who Chief is. What a weirdo. Ghosty, I'm so sorry that your family thinks Master Chief is Johnny Halo, the dude who claps coveted cheeks. I am so sorry. That is so bad. I think we all need a moment of silence for Ghosty's family. Okay. Moment of silence over. Brandon Myers is very rare to find an old Iron Warrior 20-30 years max most of the time. Lol. Well, yeah, I mean, if they're constantly throwing them into the meat grinder, then that makes sense. Oh, God, that hurts. And then somebody was just saying ODST was insane. You know what's funny is I was playing ODST and I really didn't enjoy it the first playthrough, and I don't think I played it since. Part of the reason being because like the walkthrough areas where like I had enemies, but then I had to find clues in order to get the narrative beats. It's like I just wanted the narrative beats. I just wanted like the action and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So like the exploration part of the game felt off. Now I understand that to stone teenagers who were looking for like a chill experience mixed in with their hardcore experience, that was probably actually like pretty sweet. But the truth is that I was older and I wasn't smoking pot at the time. So yeah. Any expectations for the new StarCraft and its parallel to the Warhammer universes? No, I don't. I didn't even know there was a new StarCraft. We can check that out at some point. I know. Helldivers. Helldivers is fantastic. But anyways, sorry. Let's continue. We've been memeing for long enough.
Eternal service.
He's sort of a relic of a time once past.
You know, this guy is an unstoppable force, but you've also got to find some kind of grit and hardness that shows that he's been there, done that, seen more than all the other Ultramarines he's now in this unit with. So we did the best we could in motion capture. But it is very different when you get to see these amazing graphics on the screen and what hundreds and hundreds of people who work for Saber Interactive come up with and create. It's incredible.
Lieutenant Titus, Ultramarines, 2nd Company.
For me to go right back to the bare basics.
I love how that dude was mewing while he was delivering his lines. He's like sticking his tongue on the top of his mouth palate, and then he's bringing his jaw down. Captain Titus, 2nd Company, Ultramarines. JB Collins 5781 says, I think your bolt gun is pretty cool. Well, I have several friends named Collins. They are cool people. I appreciate your appreciation of my bolt gun, and we do have more weapons on the way. So I will be doing a bolt pistol. I will be doing a chainsaw sword. I have a friend who's designing the Halo Magnum. I have a friend who is... Aw, thank you. Thank you so much, J-Mac. I appreciate you. What a king. So I'm going to let those go through. But yeah, we're doing the bolt pistol, the bolt gun... And honestly, we might have to pause for a second because it's going to give us all of those. But J-Mac, if you can hear me, 1, I'm looking forward to seeing you down in Miami. 2, thank you for all the memberships. 3, if you are still into political stuff, all my political stuff is going to be on Counterfire, which is the channel listed down in the description, which is the debate channel. Also, Counterpoints is going to have essays and stuff. So for centrist politics, that's more going to be my vibe. But going on here, I'm going to try to do a weekly Warhammer stream. So if you're more into the science fiction side of my content creation, then you are more than welcome in any space that we have. So thank you, J-Mac, for the donos. Sincerely appreciate it. Intuitive Jackal says you should also look into factions from the Destiny universe. They would give the Warhammer factions a run for their money. You say that, But what is it? It's like New Monarchy. Are people loyal to the speaker? Future War Call. They want to like get technology in order to look into the future, in order to, you know, try to divine it and do better. The Elixni are basically Sangheili, so that's all they are. The Cabal are pretty much brutes. The Vex are a threat no matter where they are. But anyways. All right. Everybody say thank you to Daddy J-Mac. 07. Thank you, sir. You're going to have to keep listening to my son thanking Daddy J-Mac. How about the Forces of the Witness? To be honest, I haven't played recently enough in order to know it. But the Taken, yeah. The Hive. Hive are cool. I like Hive. All right. Anyways, let's power through.
Basics of what acting is about and just be in an empty space. But on the day, it's about creating it and giving it a base of reality.
Lieutenant Titus! Praise the Omnisire!
Shut it down. Now.
It's your journey. You're the player. You're with Titus and the Ultramarine.
Unfortunately, that is going to be stuck in my mind for the next like few months. And there's going to be a Mechanicus like servitor or like a Mechanicus like servant who's going to see the Space Marine and be like, "Oh, Captain Titus or Lieutenant Titus, thanks for being here." And then he's going to be like, "Shut it down now." And he's going to point his gun at him. He's going to be really sad about it. Everybody keep that in mind for when we're actually playing it this fall.
If you can't connect to their faces when their helmets are off and you can't read those emotions, then there's something lacking. And that's my job, is to try and bring these guys to life. I think as the player is going to see a very, very different Titus.
If we rupture the staging tanks, direct the flow into the valley, we can flood the area around the base.
Right from the very beginning, we didn't just want to create any third-person shooter. We wanted to create a game that embodied the galactic warfare that you come to know from this franchise.
So the technology that drives Space Marine 2 is our own technology.
So, unfortunately, I don't know how to do the... if anybody knows how to do that on OBS in order to shut off the notifications, please tell me. We'll do that. But while we're waiting for that to do, let's break that down real quick. So the been there, done that, seasoned Captain Titus or Lieutenant Titus thing. What's cool about that is the chains on his arm. They show the Deathwatch insignia. So it basically means that he has been there, done that, and he knows how to kill Xenos in the most horrifying ways possible. And then also, it means that he's like a veteran now of 350 years. So he's going to be leading in these like green troops. And of course, like a Space Marine can be as young as, 13 years old and then goes through the process. And then he seems like he's a 30-year-old man. But then he can also be as aged as, I think Dante is like 1,500 years old at this point. And he's been reinfused with Primaris, so now he can't really die. Hopefully he gets a little kick in his step from being transformed into a Primaris, so he feels youthful again. But at the same time, Space Marines are not... There's arguments about whether or not they're biologically immortal or not, but they do age slowly, as evidenced by... I'm trying to think of another gentleman... Raphael from the Angels of Death, the prequel, where he actually takes his helmet off. There's a fantastic scene where he actually like takes his helmet off towards like the end of the show, where after they've I don't want to spoil it, but they've had to take out a Marine, and they show, Raphael, Chaplain Raphael from the Angels of Death series, and he is aged. He is like, he looks like he's 50 or 60, to be honest, and he's bald and he's weathered and he's got a craggy face and all that kind of stuff. So point being that if Titus looks the way he does, where he looks 40 or 50 but incredibly in shape, then, and he's 350 years old, then Raphael is probably 700 or 1,000. So point being that that veteran grit is exciting, because I am looking forward to seeing a more mature Titus, because Captain Titus, the young gun, he was optimistic and he was flexible about the codex and he kind of made moves in order to get the job done and all that kind of stuff. Whereas this is the Lieutenant Titus who has gotten his dick kicked in. And so he's probably still fairly improvisational and does what needs doing, but he's not exactly looking for a pat on the back or attention or to be like a super positive mentor to his junior Marines. He's probably like, this is the way that it's fucking done. And if you don't like it, you can shove it up your ass, which is very fun. So Adeptus Serpentis says, the Emperor protect you, J-Mac, and may you always walk in his light. Indeed, everyone either give an 07 or an Aquila to Mr. J-Mac. We were already having a fantastic night, and he already made it better. So, yes. Let's continue.
So the team's gotten very, very good at creating signature moments in this game. And the signature moment is the swarm. We have a swarm technology that allows us to have hundreds of these Tyranids attacking the player. And we're also able to build a huge expanse where you have highly detailed characters and models up close, but you can see off in the distance. You can see that swarm coming at you. You can see the enemy waves coming at you, and you will get down and dirty, blowing them all away.
You feel like you have an infinite universe in front of you. You know, you have sandbox games where you can wander around, but this goes one step further. It kind of almost feels like wherever you are in the action, wherever you look, there is another company of Marines down there fighting off swarms of Tyranids, and you've got up there, we've got ships, you know, delivering and launching and drop ships landing. Everything's around you.
One of the things people love about this world is the ability to customize your character. You know, you take these little miniatures, you post.
Hold on. So they're getting into more beautiful, fantastic things, but we need to break down what they already said. So the swarm technology is awesome. I am very worried about how my system is going to perform on it because now I'm dealing with a 3 or 4 year old rig. But if they say that my system can run it, then I'll just pray that they figured it out where they can please dedicate streams to specifically playing this. I mean, hey, listen, towards the end, we can watch some videos and stuff, but we were talking about doing kind of like a book night. So one of the things that I was thinking about doing was playing Horus Heresy audiobooks chronologically in the background. And then we can do a variety of things while we're listening to the Horus Heresy, one of which could be playing Space Marine 2012 on low volume while we're waiting for Space Marine 2 to come out. It could be playing the original, what is it? Is it like Fire Warrior or something like that? Like the classic early thousands Warhammer first-person shooter where you get to play as a Tau. We can, we can paint miniatures together and all that kind of stuff. But the goal overall would be to hang out and have kind of like a night to hang out and appreciate something new that's going on or something old that's going on with Warhammer as a community, but also engage in the chat as well. So, we can figure that out as we go along and figure out what's more popular. But the thing is, when somebody requests a certain kind of content from me, so for instance, if they're like, play this video game, well, if I play that video game and then viewership drops down to a third and I'm not interacting with chat, chances are we're not going to be doing that again, right? So I have to test what works. And so far, what I want to do, regardless of what other content we do, I do want to interact with whatever content is going on that week and then move into whatever else we're doing for, the rest of the night. And my game plan is to basically stream from 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. or midnight weekly at least. So yeah. Okay, anyways, talking about the swarm thing, seems good, worried about my system, but one of the cool things that they said is that they purposefully thought about always having the skybox being filled with battle stuff and always thought about having battles and different like Space Marine contingents engaging around you and Imperial Guard contingents engaging around you. And that is what has been missing from Warhammer 40k because of a lack of performance from machines. It always feels like you are in a skirmish level squad going into a skirmish level engagement. Darktide kind of changed that, but it still feels, compared to the rest of the 40k universe, pretty small scope and pretty skirmishy. So what I'm hoping that they're ambitious about capturing, and I agree with them, is capturing the feel that you are one component of a massive battle. Yeah. All right, let's continue.
Pose them the way you want. You give them the weapons that you want. You paint them the way you want. And we wanted to take that same approach and put it in the game so you can do the same thing with your character.
Which, by the way, is beautifully said.
The game offers 3 modes. A co-op story campaign that you can play with your friends, a highly replayable PvE mode with lots of progression and customization, and a PvP mode that puts you against other players.
Yes.
The more you play these PvE missions, the deeper you can go into the progression of these characters, unlocking skills and perks and weapons. And as you do that, our famous AI director is able to increase the challenge, throw tougher enemies at you in more challenging situations.
As you've seen with some of our...
In case y'all didn't see that, a hive warrior is trying to fight the customized character, so this is probably a PvE game, and with the power fist execution, he grabs his bone sword, makes him stab himself in the side of the head, and then he uppercuts the warrior with the power fist, exploding his face. We are going to watch that again.
Characters unlocking skills and perks and weapons. And as you do that, our famous AI director is able to increase the challenge, throw tougher enemies at you in more challenging situations.
As you've seen with some of our other...
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. I don't know how else to phrase it to you. I appreciate it. We're about like 40 people cross-platform right now. I don't know how else to phrase it to you fine folk at home, besides the fact that some people appreciate art, some people appreciate music, some people appreciate, I don't know, like name something that people are into, that like they like going to concerts or something. I personally am a fan of an 8-foot tall demigod of war with an energy-based like power fist weapon, forcing an alien to stab himself in the side of the head and then uppercutting his face until it explodes. That's what gets me going, right? That's what makes me excited. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like, one more day closer to exoskeletons, power melee weapons, science fiction firearms, and the ability to kill evil aliens. And like, you know, obviously if humanity lives and dies out on planet Earth and we don't ever encounter hostile alien life, that's fantastic. But I do want humanity to be capable of interstellar and at least solar and interstellar travel and colonization, and have complex weapons where if we bump into hostile alien life, we will be capable of dealing with it. Red 473 says genocide is so in right now. Jesus. That's a spicy comment.
Other titles, we have a track record of supporting our titles through quality of life updates, through paid DLC, and larger add-ons. So with Space Marine 2, because the universe is so rich and there's so much to draw from, we're really excited about what story we can tell and what things that we can continue to do in this game.
Okay, so he said Saber already has a reputation for paid DLC campaigns, for cosmetic support, for ongoing live support, etc., etc., etc. So what I hear is we are not going to release this game and then abandon it. We are going to continue to support it into the future. But what I also hear, and this is one of my frustrations, is it seems like with each Halo iteration, with each Grand Theft Auto iteration, they keep going back and they rebuild the engine, or they redo the graphics, or they redo something, right? Cosmetic or engine-based or whatever, and then they build the game from scratch. But the truth is that these graphics and these models are already fantastic. So how about, instead of rebuilding the engine over and over and over again, just make a Drukhari campaign, or an Ajirani campaign, or a Orcs campaign, or a Tau campaign, and figure out how you're going to do the weapons balance. Now, obviously, with the Space Marine structure as it currently exists, swarm enemies like Orcs and Tyranids are going to be the best. But who's to say that you can't have a limited campaign with Ajirani or Drukhari, so Dark Eldar and Eldar enemies, and not have it be like the whole game, but have it be like a chapter, like a 4 or 5 hour narrative DLC where you fight them and they have like Drukhari and Ajirani style weapons and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't have to be a horde. It can be like elite versus elite. So you face less enemies, but they're more intelligent and they have different tactics that you have to combat. And so instead of having to recreate the engine over and over again, or recreate the graphics over and over again, you can just change the experience through enemy factions. That, I think, is fascinating and something absolutely worth exploring.
The truth is that we've been kind of circling like sharks around Games Workshop for a long time, trying to get hold of this game.
Based.
We believe at Saber that we have the story, the gunplay, the technology, the experience, and the passion to deliver what fans want. So I'm scared, but I'm excited. Our team is, they love working on this game. It's one of their favorite games that they've ever worked on.
So to see what 10 years of development on that Space Marine engine franchise story is going to be like for Space Marine 2, I think everybody involved with Warhammer is really, really
Don't worry,
excited
we'll
to
go
see
back.
that.
No matter what the fans are asking for, trust me, we're asking for even more.
So, when the CEO tells me that he is excited and scared, that is typically a good sign for me. And then and then he's like, if you think the fans are asking for something, we're asking for even more. Awesome. Good. I hope that they have creatives who are just annoying the shit out of Games Workshop people every single day, being like, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do this? Can we do that? That is exciting for me. And then this dude in particular, he seems like a passion nerd. So I'm excited for that. Let's check out. They had a Death Watch sequence though. So let's try to get to the Death Watch sequence. In period and commas. Okay, so we have the opening of a Corvus Black Star, which again we mentioned was like the drop ship that the Death Watch have. Looks like we have a sideways bay that's open. Unfortunately, it's open on both sides. We have what looks like Firstborn Death Watch armor, a bolt pistol shot. The gargoyle tackles a Firstborn. Excuse me. And rams him out the other side of the crashing Corvus Black Star. They're both falling. He's got a chainsword and a bolt pistol. He punches the gargoyle in the face. Is this what Siame Peterson has been working on? Because I'm not saying it's all forgiven. He needs to be working on Astartes too. He should not be working on cinematics for Space Marine. But if he is, if this is Siame Peterson and M2 Studios, I'll try not to complain too much. Maybe this is how Titus like dies and crosses the Rubicon Primaris. Maybe he was like a Black Shield or something. I don't know. Maybe the Inquisition was like, you can't go back to the Ultramarines. Because I don't see a Legion Pauldron here, right? That looks like an oath. And then he crashes through the jungle. It does look like Kadaku, though, so I don't think it's Titus. Could be, but I don't think so. But yeah, that was beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Huge fan. Huge fan. Remy LeBeau says, Games Workshop doesn't want to give you what fans want. True. I mean, true. If anything, it seems like they have a really good ability to fumble the bag, but I think it's such a successful IP that it won't matter. These Death Watch are cooked. You say that, but Death Watch are a big fan of hanging out with Xenos and slaughtering them in the hundreds, if not the thousands, if not the tens of thousands. So this reminds me of Call of Duty Ghosts Extinction cutscene. Yeah. Yes. All right, cool. So what we've done, we're still going to be going on for a little bit here. We're going to be watching the Skulls preview just to kind of summarize what we've done so far. We checked out the Warhammer. So if you're just coming into the stream recently, I know people trickle in and out as they have different responsibilities throughout the night or they have to do different things. So if you are just coming in or have come in recently or whatever, we went over the Warhammer community this week in Warhammer. There are no new animations, which is very frustrating. We went through the articles. They're almost all oriented to Age of Sigmar, so we just kind of shot the shit by bullshitting with chat. And then we also just checked out some of the new sculpts, which are fantastic. I'm just not a huge Age of Sigmar person. We did go through some of the lore. We did go through some Space Marine 2 content, which I hope you have enjoyed because I've enjoyed it as well. It seems like Saber Interactive has their stuff together and they are paying attention to what's going on. And then what we're going to do now is is we are going to check out the Skulls event. So there is an annual Games Workshop Skulls event, which is a breakdown of all the video games that they have either released or are releasing. So we're just going to watch that. It's about 40 minutes long. I'll pause it intermittently in order to break it down. It is 10:44 right now. I will run to at the latest midnight. So we will be hanging out for another hour and 15 minutes. If I feel like something is dragging or not really what I'm interested in or what you guys are interested in, I will fast forward. So, you know, this is no replacement for the original, but it is, you know, you get to hang out with 42 cross-platform, 42 of your closest friends and family, and you get to enjoy some science fiction and some violence. So what a treat. What a treat to be spending our Sunday nights in this beautiful way. She is Invisible says Games Workshop doesn't really care about their fan base. They sued the guy who made TTS and sued, yes, and they bought out Astartes. Not the best use of their money. I mean, I agree completely. Although TTS did shut down before he needed to. Comedy and parody is often covered under fair use, but I think he also lives in Europe. So as a result, he might not have as many protections as us Americanoids. But let's continue. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry for yawning in your ears. It's just getting late. We can do that. So there's some content that I couldn't quite fit into the pre-recorded format. Like my buddy Gassim, also known as Elogid in the Discord. By the way, join the Discord if you're not in there already. There's plenty of science fiction, political, and philosophy nerds in there. He wanted me to break down Magic the Gathering Warhammer cards because he plays Magic, but he doesn't do Warhammer. And I couldn't think of a pre-recorded video that would do well algorithmically. But if we're just hanging out, you know, 30 to 50 of us, and you want to break down the different Magic the Gathering cards and their lore, we could do that. That's not a problem. You know, I for the pre-recorded videos, I kind of have to follow the algorithm because that's what, you know, brings in the revenue for the channel. But for the live streams, we should focus on what does well and entertains an audience. But especially when we're starting out, we can experiment and have fun. So if there's weird things like that, like watching the Emperor has text-to-speech and breaking it down in a lay fashion, or Magic the Gathering lore breakdowns, we can do that as a live stream. That sounds great, actually. Adeptus Serpentis says, perfect, I get out of work at midnight. Beautiful. Brandon Meyer says, everybody excited for 4th of July? Yeah, I think I actually work for a company now that'll have the night off. But anyways, I could yap at y'all for another 30 minutes, but let's not do that. Let's do this. I don't know if this is like the actual trailer.
Sons and daughters.
Yeah, that has the narrative. We don't care. We already watched this earlier. So let's.
I fight.
1 minute, 20 seconds.
To enjoy a
Sure, whatever.
promotion
We'll start here.
across a wide range of Warhammer video games on your chosen platform. So let's not waste any time and dive right into the showcase, joining Lieutenant Titus as he holds back the relentless Tyranid horde.
Did we literally just watch this? We'll see.
We kill it. We break the synaptic connection. It's
We literally just watched this.
Up some seals.
So I'm gonna skip ahead. All right, sorry. Nice. That's cool. I don't have a VR headset, but that could be fun, I guess. You know what's funny? Is so you don't want to track your metrics too hard as like a live streamer, because people come in, they come out, like all that kind of stuff. So and by the way, like when other people are live streaming, I don't stay the whole time. I jump in for 5 or 10 minutes, or you know, like an hour or a half hour while I'm doing something else. I bullshit. Maybe I'll do a super chat if I'm, you know, it was payday Friday or something like that, and then I'll dip out. So it's like, it's not anything personal against live streamers when people come and go. But what's funny is when I'm ranting, when I'm yapping my little face off, our numbers like climb like a little bit, like we get like an extra 5 to 10, and then when we get into content, it like drops a little bit, and it's like, wait, so is me yapping? Like, is that better than content? No, I think we need to get into content. So it's just the figuring out how to YouTube and how to live stream is a challenge in and of itself. But I won't bore you with those details. Let's see what else we got. Cool. Some merch. Ghosty says, I've been here the whole time though. Winky face. Thank you, King. I appreciate you. I think that this is a game that I need to get, I think, coming up right now. Yep.
Race there, boys. Oh, I can't wait to get clubbing. Here we go. Give me more! Shut it! How'd you like that, Tucker? What? Put the pedal to the floor. Eyes the fastest.
Oh, yeah.
Tucker, tucker, tucker. Faster, boys. Bring them to the end. We got the bomb.
It's in beta. This summer. Okay, cool. I didn't want to miss it. Jonah Boy says this looks like a Mad Max game. Yeah, so there's obviously like various orc cultures, and one of them is the Speed Freaks. And the Speed Freaks are people who love to jam together any kind of like scrap metal vehicles that they can find and then just create whatever they can. Now, there are different categories of, vehicle, like the scrapjet and the stompa and the wagon and all that kind of stuff. But the truth is that like each one of these has their like own lore, and within the orc lore, these are customized and created in a billion different ways. And so the customization is endless. Like you could 3D print or resin print as many vehicles as you could design and have a unique one for each one, and it would technically be lore accurate because the orcs are literally just scrapping together everything. And I think that this captures like the fun of the orcs. But what I like to remind myself, because the orcs are fun, they're the only people having a good time in the 40th millennium because they genuinely enjoy conflict and war, and they like killing and dying. And also what's funny is they kind of have, I didn't understand this, but I bumped into a little segment of lore that I like to think is true, where they say that the orcs don't care about dying because they think that if they die in glorious battle, or if they die in battle, they're gonna rejoin the godhead of Gork and Mork. And on top of that, they will be respawned in the fungus of a new planet and a new war. So there's no anxiety about being an orc, because all you have to do is be born, fight some more, die, and then you'll be reborn. It's kind of like the Valhallans from the Mad Max series. It's kind of beautiful and simple in a way. And so when I see a grot or an orc being shot on top of a missile and then flying down and striking another vehicle, and he's riding the missile and he's guiding it, I think on one hand, I'm like, wow, that's sad. Poor little grot or orc is going to die in a horrific way in order to guide a missile. But the truth is, he's living his life. He's living his dream. He is fulfilling his purpose. And in some ways, that is beautiful. Now, the other thing that you need to remind yourself of is the fact that, what is it? So they reincarnate. Orcs are fun, but they're also horror. So they can be fun in their internal logic, but you also have to think about it from the perspective of a human who's living. Yeah, exactly. Witness me. But you have to think about it from the perspective of the human where you have 8-foot tall green gorillas running around in your city, ripping people's arms out of their sockets and stabbing them to death and shooting them to death, men, women, and children, because they feel like it, right? Like there's a horror element to that the orcs will kill the weak, kill the strong, and then keep some slaves. So there should be a horror element to the orcs as well. But let us continue. So I'm gonna fuck it. We'll leave it. I have some notes. So I have wanted to talk about Tacticus for like months, and it's because I have it and I play it and I kind of love it and it's great. And from a mobile game perspective, it doesn't make you pay for anything that you don't want. And some other people were advertising Tacticus, like I think some of the bigger Warhammer YouTubers. Oh shit, Chud Logic had a Tacticus sponsorship, and I asked him how he got it, and the sponsorship was already over with Restream or whoever he was working with anyways. But the point is, I don't know if you might be a little younger than me, but there was a game when I was growing up, and I was under the age of 10, and it was called Heroes of Might and Magic. And in Heroes of Might and Magic, you would get heroes, and it was flat, and it was turn-based. And you would have like half a dozen to a dozen heroes that you would recruit to your team, and they would all have like special abilities, and they would all have different power levels and stuff. And what you would do is you would run around on like a clickable map, and you would bump into other enemies and different creatures. And if you killed the other creatures, then you would get them into your inventory of like dragons and heroes and knights and demons and witches and elves that you could deploy on the battlefield. And then you could like level them up and get better levels and, you know, get different special abilities and all that kind of stuff. And it was fucking fun. And it was really, really, really simple and kind of like cute in a way, but the art was really good. And because it was like turn-based, it was kind of, I don't want to say thoughtless, but it didn't require a whole lot of thought. And so I picked up Tacticus, and it's the same thing. So, well, so Jonah Boy says, I had to drop Tacticus because it takes like a year of grinding to unlock the good characters as a free-to-play. So what's funny is the leveling system in Tacticus is actually fairly complex. And so it can take a year to get the most advanced characters. But what's interesting is you just kind of have to log in daily and pay. Like, I don't want to rant to you guys about Tacticus forever, but you kind of just have to log in daily and play for 20 minutes. And if you don't want to spend your entire day playing, literally like 20 minutes is the commitment that you would need to log in, claim your login bonuses, raid, which means that you don't have to do the battles, in order to get the different stuff to level up your characters, or in order to get new characters. And if you just do that grind 20 minutes a day, you like, I have like 80% of the characters unlocked. It's great. I love it. And I have not spent that much money on it. I've spent some, but I haven't spent a lot. So anyways, Tacticus ran over. It's Heroes of Might and Magic, turn-based, on your phone. Pretty fun. Jonah Boy says it's too grindy. I think for a free-to-play game, it's okay.
Future.
Ooh.
Picked up my scent. I've been running, hiding, across continents, realms, fleeing through time, past, future.
Tis hounds! They're in my dreams now! I need to get out! Out of my own mind!
Karanak. He's here.
Interesting. Is that like Cerberus, but for corn? That's cool, I guess. So I want to point something out. I really love detective mysteries set in fantasy. So, for instance, like the Hanover Toll episode of Hammer and Bolter, I loved it. I loved it. There's also like a Dan Abnett fantasy book that's set in like a steampunk setting, and it's also fantastic. So that's all I really have to say on that. Let's check out the next trailer. Hold on, I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to see if it's things that I want to check out, because I don't want to bore you guys to death either. That's RTS. That's like Eternal War. I'm not a huge fan of Eternal War. Call of Duty getting skins for Warhammer actually pisses me off, so I don't really want to check that out. Bolt Gun. We can watch Bolt Gun, that's for sure.
Part of Sterngard veteran Malum Kaido, who's back fighting his way into the depths of the demonic forge in the brand new DLC, Forges of Corruption. Let's check it out.
This is actual content.
You had a hell of a blast purging the heretics?
So realistic. Feels like going to work.
You wanted more?
A true masterpiece of diplomacy and finesse.
Grab your chainsaw because your favorite Ultramarine is back. Introducing Bolt Gun, Forges of Corruption! The archenemy has seized a crucial manufactorum on Graia. Descend into the depths of the forge complex and purge them! Traverse the Graia battlefields. Hunt your prey in the demonic forge. And show no mercy! Take on the Black Legion Havoc and his heavy weaponry. Survive the infamous Chaos Abomination, the Hell Brute! Scorch scores of heretics with your multi-melter! Or blow them away with your missile launcher! Boom goes the Chaos Pill! If you're up for the challenge, dare to face endless waves of foes in our new Horde mode! For the Emperor!
Bolt Gun, Forges of Corruption will once again shake Warhammer 40,000's grim universe to its very core. Available on PC, PS5, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and...
Okay, so I haven't played Bolt Gun yet, but... And I'm not a fan of the beaky helmet, but I do like the meme where it's like Korn and Slaanesh, they're like hanging out as if they're dating in their kitchen. And Slaanesh asks, like, are you sure he's not one of yours? Like, he's asking if this guy is, like, the bastard child of Korn somewhere. And he's like, I'm pretty sure. And the reason why is, like, obviously we enjoy... in order to have a Doom, I think they call it a boomer shooter, you have to have hordes that you slaughter through. But this is one Space Marine going up against, like, Chaos. And so, as a result, he's, like, taking out Chaos Terminators left and right. He's taking out Chaos Space Marines left and right as if they were like chaff. He's taking out demons left and right as if they were chaff. And so he kind of has a, Kaldor Drago Grey Knights vibe to him, where he's like too angry to die. And on one hand, Warhammer 40k is big enough that, this can kind of like exist in its own little niche. On the other hand, from like a narrative perspective, you're like, would he really be able to take on that many demons and Space Marines single-handedly? And you say like, hey, Connor, aren't you a hypocrite for thinking that? Because in Space Marine 2012, don't you kill like a shitload of Space Marines? And that's true, but they make the Space Marines in Space Marine 2012 feel challenging. And what I mean by that is oftentimes the Space Marines in Space Marine 2012 were distracted in a battle fighting the orcs. So you're kind of like sneaking up on them and taking them unawares. You're also only facing like 2 or 3 of them at a time. And then the normal Space Marines that are not like captains or characters with like flails or maces or whatever, you can take them out relatively easily. But the Havocs with plasma cannons will murder the shit out of you if you're not paying attention. And then same thing with like the Chaos Champions with Mauls, who have like, they almost have like a warp field. It's almost like a, what do they call it? There's something... it's an invulnerable save, but I'm trying to think of the thing that captains have that they wear. An Iron Halo. It's like an Iron Halo, but it's warp based. And those champions with the power mauls, they will fuck you up. If you try to go into melee combat with them and they are not worn down at all, they will eat your fucking breakfast in front of you. So that's where, yeah, does Captain Titus kill too many Chaos Space Marines? Sure. But each Chaos Space Marine makes you earn it in a certain way where it actually feels like a challenge. Whereas this looks like, this character is just bouncing around murdering everything. So.
Nintendo Switch.
All right, let's see if there's any other video games worth checking out. Vermintide. Vermintide is great. Apparently it's even better than Darktide. Looks like we have a turn-based Blood Bowl. Not my thing. Looks like we have a DLC release for Inquisitor Martyr. We have a World of Tanks Rogel Dorn release. And I'm sorry if I'm speeding through it, but I just, I don't want to force you guys to, we lost 10 people somewhere. They might have had to go to bed. It's getting late, but I also don't want to drag you through content that even I'm not interested in just for the sake of creating content. That doesn't seem like a good time. And then I think this is like an Eternal Crusade trailer that heavily features Necrons or Mechanicus too. Okay, cool. Vinny Luke says, is this live? It sure is, but we were kind of coming up on the tail end of it, I would say. We've been live for a few hours. Matter of fact, I'll tell you exactly how long. We've been live for 3 hours almost exactly, which is kind of my goal for a live stream. So, if you have questions, thank you whoever became a member or dono or whatever. I do appreciate it. You guys have been very generous, so thank you. Have you ever thought that a good way to debunk centrism is to notice that centrism between poo and pee is diarrhea, which is worse than poo and pee as individually constituted? No. Hot to go. I have never thought that. And on top of that, listen, as somebody who leans on, from a natural bowel movement side, since you brought up poo and pee, I'll go ahead and indulge you. As somebody who has typically more hard stools, every now and then you just need a solid diuretic shake to, just get your system knocked loose. So, you just gotta roll with it. Holy crap, did somebody do another thing where they donated like a bajillion memberships or something like that? Whoever you are, announce yourself in chat. I will personally thank you. But we had J-Mac, he gave us 20 memberships earlier tonight on YouTube. We had some cash donations. It's overall been a very nice night. Casey Baldwell says, phone battery is now dead. I'll see you, my brothers, on the other side. 07, Casey, we will see you. If you have questions or concerns, go ahead and post them in the chat. Do @counterpoints. You do not have to do a super chat. You don't have to do anything. You can just do @counterpoints. Money is always appreciated, but it's not required. If you're not a member, become a member. If you're not a YouTube sub, become a sub. If you have cash burning a hole in your pocket, donate your bits, your whatever. Obviously, the goal is to go full-time eventually, but in order to do that, I need not just decent ad revenue from my YouTube channel. I also need some live stream donos and a interested and engaged audience. But I want to parasocially love and thank all of you for being here and for hanging out with us. We did have like 30 to 50 people the entire night. Frosty Botman says, I hope Space Marine 2 blows up. Amazing. Yeah, no, seriously. Everything that we saw tonight and everything that Saber Interactive has said is actually looking fantastic. It looks like they're doing a really good job. And some people were concerned that they pushed back the beta. I am not anxious at all. I am very, very thankful that they are focusing on quality over everything else. Honestly, I've been pretty engaged with chat, so I'm just going to check out the super chats real quick. Book Club Me Lore Master. Okay, so just sharing future things. That was from Adeptus Serpentis, who still has a few minutes left at work. So one of the things that we're going to do, so I want to continue with the This Week in Warhammer is obviously the weekly release of Warhammer content that they tell us what we're going to be having in the next week, which is cool. There's also community articles. This was very Age of Sigmar focused this past week, but they do have, like, they show off models and paint jobs and kit bashes and community events and all that kind of stuff. So I do want to highlight any of those that are cool or interesting or weird throughout on Sunday. Basically will be our weekly, what I'll try to commit to weekly. Then if there's new trailers or videos or breakdowns, obviously I want to do pre-recorded content some of the time, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense. So for instance, we were talking about Magic the Gathering Warhammer 40K cards. I don't think pre-recorded makes sense for that, but live stream, I could do that for sure. And I could just tell my buddy Gassim, like, hey, check this out. I'll take a look at all the Magic the Gathering cards. We'll hang out. We'll do that. But one of the things that Serpentis brought up that I want to do is I want to do This Week in Warhammer, but we will run out of stuff to break down. So as a result, I'm thinking about doing, and probably will eventually do, we will listen to the Horus Heresy as a group. We'll hang out on Sunday night for a few hours. We'll play some video games and chill and talk to chat, and I'll pause intermittently in order to break down what's going on, but we will break it down because frankly, especially the first 4 to 7 books in the Horus Heresy are fantastic books. Like sometimes they make me cry, like Flight of the Eisenstein and Horus Rising. I think a couple of times those books actually hurt my feelings and gave me, they made me remember why I was born human. Remy LeBeau, if you want to perfect your poop, I cannot recommend probiotic supplements. Changed my life. I will get on that. Thank you. RC Armorsalt says, just give me an apothecary class or 20v20 game mode similar to Battlefield 5 or 4. RC, I think you're going to have to hold off on that because I don't think it's going to, I don't think they're going to have an apothecary class, and I don't think they're going to be able to customize that level of games. Are you at all familiar with any controversy surrounding Space Marine 2? Yeah, kind of. I mean, I just remember that one of the writers was supposedly an SJW. That's the only thing that I've heard, though. One of the writers was an SJW. That's it. That's the only negative stuff I've heard. Death Corps of Krieg 8288. Are there any more guardsmen in this group chat? Of course. So I have, these are old Death Watch. This is 3,000 points of Death Watch. But this is Imperial Guard. So I stopped painting for a while so I could work on my bolt gun project, but I eventually want to complete like a guard army, orc army, all that stuff. I want to do some battle reports on the channel, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty great. Frosty Botman says, I don't think I could ever get into the tabletop game, but I have played a few of the games and I have enjoyed what I have played. Yeah, of course. So the I would say the tabletop is probably the most difficult because each one of these models, right? Each one of these little Space Marines, I bought them in, you know, if you're talking about 5 of them, probably costs $30 to $50 each. And I kit bashed them too. So realistically, I spent like 60 or like 80 because I kit bashed them, meaning that I combined like 2 different kits. Now, this is years, so don't judge my poor financial habits off of how much money is back here. But each one of these models, I painted for 3 hours. So the vehicles took quite a bit more time, but each individual soldier was 3 hours. Easily. And that wasn't even like a super complex paint job. That was like base coat, prime, edge highlight, detail paint, wash, dry brush. And then I started adding in zenithal highlights. So each one of them, dude, is like 3 hours. Like I loved it, and it was really good for my mental health. I was kind of like decompressing from the military and law enforcement and stuff. So it was like a huge mental way for me to like do something meditative for a few hours that was productive and made something beautiful. And I would always have like, literally, I used to go to bed because I have some anxiety, lots of us have anxiety these days, but I was having some anxiety and it was difficult for me to go to bed because my mind would always be racing a mile a minute. And literally what I would do to kind of focus on something that I wanted to think about before I go to bed is I would actually think about the next models that I wanted to buy, or how I would paint them, or how I would kit bash them, or, the lists that I would build for different games. I would build them in my head. And that was a cool way for me to meditatively focus on something that I really enjoyed that allowed me to kind of like relax and doze off to sleep. So, I mean, there's, everybody has trauma, everybody has issues. But if you need like a nice little meditative distraction that still feels contemplative at the same time, I do recommend Warhammer. I think it's a good creative outlet. Adeptus Serpentis says, sweet, I got my coworkers to play Dark Heresy 2E on Sunday, so I'll see if I can hook them into the book club eventually. Nice, based. All right, Garo is hardcore. Yes, Garo is one of my favorite characters. And Brandon Meyer says, I play guard. So Deathcore, you are in good company. But what I'm going to say is we dropped down to 30 cross-platform, probably because there was a whole bunch, people are going to bed, and also there was a whole bunch of video game content that even not necessarily I was interested in. I'm showing off my muscles right now because I'm not doing anything crazy, but I am lifting 3 times a week. I just have 25-pound dumbbells at work, and I just do biceps and back, I do chest and tri, and I do forearms and shoulders. And I'm going to buy monkey feet, which is it's a strap that goes under your legs, and it lets you hook the dumbbell to your feet. And then I'm going to start doing leg workouts as well. And so I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but it feels good to stretch sore muscles and flex them and imagine punching people in the face. It's great. Deathcore says, I also have to go to bed. It's 11:10 for me. Yeah, let's call it a night, ladies and germs. Brandon Myers, personally, I'm cool with 4 to 5 colors on a manager and some Nuln oil. True. Have fun and serve the Emperor. Thank you. All right. 07, ladies and germs, I bid you a good night. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us and having a good time. Thank you to all the donors. We did have some generous folks early in the night, and then we had Daddy J-Mac drop by and drop 20 memberships. So thank you kindly. A wildly successful evening just for 30 to 50 of us hanging out and chilling amongst ourselves. I hope you had fun as well. RC, it's 4 in the morning. Yeah. Let's all go to bed. Let's all go to bed so we get bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You have a beautiful night. 07's in the chat. And, sorry, I got to do it. And an Aquila from me. 07's in the chat. Have a beautiful night. Bye for now.